In the back of the room, you guys can kind of come in a little bit, just so that everyone in the hallway has an opportunity to come in. The back of the room, please come forward, give the people in the hallway an opportunity to come into the room. All right. Let's call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine Law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of October 23rd, 2023 is available by call-in phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until there's time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2023-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 6, 2023, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole.
Here.
Hoey.
Here.
Cox.
Here.
Rivera.
Here.
Net. Rodriguez.
Here.
Also as Administrator Casagran, Attorney Sobel, and Chief McGovern.
Thank you. Chief McGovern, you requested to speak with the governing body today.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, before we say anything else, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for the building that's getting built. So it's been a very long process. Right? We all know that, Chris, right? A long process. And if you drove by there now, the parking lot is gone and they start construction. So before anything else, thank you for that. Now, what most of us are here for tonight, I just want to say again, thank you to the mayor, council, for administrator Teresa, for these promotions moving forward. It's very important to the department that we move forward with these promotions. Again, this has been a very long process. I think we started back in June or July. Also, I'd like to recognize other officers that put in for the promotion. There was a lot of hard work. They all did excellent. And tonight, we're looking to promote. I'm respectfully requesting that you move a resolution forward to promote Sherry Lambert, captain, Steve Snyder to lieutenant, and Bill Harriet to sergeant. I'd like to welcome their family and friends that are here tonight and recognize a few people. Retired Chief Gregory is here, now under sheriff. We have Chief from Seabright for Freeman, Chief from Villa Silver, Paul Halpin, Chief from Rumson, Jeff Nixon, and retired Lieutenant Bob Townsend, Lieutenant Dave Banaco, Mike back there. So thank you, but I'm certainly requesting you move forward with this.
Thank you, Chief. Starting off with resolution 2023-266. This is the appointment of police captain Sherry Lambert. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Net.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
My mom and my best friend. And it's my mom's birthday, so.
Oh.
Yeah, what do you want?
Perfect. Okay.
I'm backwards tonight, I'm backwards.
Repeat after me. I,
I,
Sherry Lambert,
Sherry Lambert,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey.
that I will bear true faith
That I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established
established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully
impartially,
and partially
and justly perform
and justly perform
the duties of
the duties of
police captain
police captain
according to the best
according to the best
of my ability.
of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Right.
Sherry, face this way. Captain Lambert. Captain Lambert. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Chief McGovern. And everyone that I work with and friends, family, I could not have done this without you guys. So thank you very much.
Okay, next up, 2023-267, appointment of Police Lieutenant Stephen Schneider. I have a motion. Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
La Barbera,
Yes.
Net,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes. Want to call for it? Repeat after me. I,
I,
Stephen Schneider,
Stephen Schneider,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
and the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the
to
same
the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established
established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority
under the authority
of the
of
people,
the people,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully,
faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform the duties of
perform the duties of
police lieutenant
police lieutenant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I prepared 3 pages of, no, I'm kidding. I want to thank everybody. It's been a great process. I want to thank, I'm not going to name everybody behind me for making this happen. I work with the best police department. And I got to thank my wife. She probably knows through studying, probably more than half the people in this room that are cops, could probably ace the test. So thank you for not with me. Thank you for going over flashcards. Thank you for writing my flashcards. So thank you very much. And thanks everybody for showing up.
Okay, moving along, 2023-268, appointment of police sergeant William Lagriteria. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Council members Cole.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes.
Koch.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Neff. Yes. Rodriguez.
Yes.
And you come this way.
Yeah. I, William Lagriteria,
William Lagriteria,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments
and to the government
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully,
faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Again, thank you, Chief McGovern and the Mayor and Council for this opportunity. Again, there's a lot of people here that I've worked up to this for, with whether or not it's, guys from Coach RPH with, worked in other departments, and, my guys from Moser in the back. But again, I gotta thank the guys in the back. I couldn't do this without you guys. And I look forward to continuing leading you guys and leading this department in the future. I really do look forward, and I really, hope I can do this to the best of my ability for you guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, moving along, workshop session. If anybody does want to leave now, you're welcome to. You're here for the long run, that's fine. So. Teresa? All right, moving along, workshop session, Fairhaven Business Association requested display lawn signs and banners for Shop Small Saturday Holiday Stroll. Anyone have any questions on this?
Great.
Comments? Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion, good first.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Next up, request to display a Veteran Lives Here sign at Veterans Homes, November 4th to 18th. Any question, comment here? Great.
Glad we're doing it.
Anyone want to make a motion?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Next up, draft ordinance for fishing and crabbing at waterfront areas. So again, this is a workshop session. If there's support in moving it forward, it would be something that would likely be introduced at the next meeting. Does anyone have any questions on how, I know this was drawn up today.
Oh,
Does anyone have any questions on what they're seeing, comments, anything they want to change? The one thing that I had that I was gonna ask you, because we haven't had a chance to talk yet, is there the potential to limit how many traps someone can throw out either per person or by family or rods?
I've never seen in all the ordinances that I comb through the state of New Jersey, I haven't found anything that would specify the, limitation on traps or fishing rods.
Can we be the first? Or
It could always be, it could always be the first.
right?
I don't know how enforceable and how easy it would be to enforce. People might not take ownership of those traps or those fishing rods.
I think we
So,
had a local resident in attendance last time who referred to.
Marty.
Marty's
Marty's here.
She sent it to us.
Yeah, she sent us, but I'm not sure that was a municipality.
No, I think it was a private
It was a
business.
private business.
I see.
That had like a fishing.
This is the fishing pier.
Yeah,
I see.
and the actual owner manager, I'm using that interchangeably, would go and enforce and monitor.
and the reason to enforce that through a private business would be so that people will have their fair share
Yeah,
or shake of catching and trapping, sea life, so.
I think if there's a way to do it legally, I think it would be a positive step from the standpoint of maybe excluding people that are coming there for, it seems, commercial purposes. Obviously, a huge majority of who's in the room right now is from that neighborhood. And I imagine that you guys have kids or yourself like to go crabbing and fishing. So if you have feedback as how that type of rule might affect your kids or anyone else, I'd like to hear that feedback. You can email me in the next 2 weeks. I think we're 3 weeks away.
yes.
I think it's 3 weeks away, the next meeting. Obviously, try not to wait till the last week because that's last minute. But if you do have feedback on that and you think that that would be too restrictive or not restrictive enough, that's obviously information that we would like to know. Does anyone else have any comments on?
The only thing there, with, the leftover chicken, is that covered in like a different ordinance with like cleaning and picking up your garbage?
Well, that's where I was.
I mean, I would say that, yeah, it would go to a disorderly persons type of offense.
Right.
Littering.
I think we can also, public health, safety and welfare being the key fundamentals of any legislation. This, I think, would be there's a basis for all three in this particular piece of legislation, because we know we have some potential health issues, almost contamination type situations. As a result of the bait and the leftovers and to what extent it gets cleaned up properly or not. So I was gonna suggest that we also add public health and welfare at the top. I think
Sure.
certainly can understand peace and tranquility referring to welfare, but it really is about addressing all three based on our discussions.
So the type of bait that they can use, maybe a limitation as to the bait, because that's what the chicken would be, raw chicken.
Cleaning it up.
and cleaning after, well, I mean,
It can't hurt to state that here, right? About the cleanup.
This is gonna be an enforcement. issue, yeah.
Mayor, I just want to clarify, because there's a couple of items here that I changed. I really prefer to have those specific hours as I continue to put in the ordinance. I limited the hours from 9 PM until 8 AM. So under 9-6.1 permitted hours. I selected the time frame of 9 PM until 8 AM.
To
I think
prohibit.
as for prohibition, as opposed to doing the 1 hour before sunrise and the 1 hour after sunset. I think this is a lot easier to enforce.
What was the latest sunset in the summer?
4:37?
No.
No,
Oh, summer, sorry. I
Probably like
feel like it was, no, it was later than that. Yeah.
Is it? That's my only concern is you go 9 PM. We certainly don't want to stop people, I don't think, before sundown.
I think it's close enough from an enforcement.
One day.
If you ask somebody to start cleaning up. It's gonna be nighttime soon, it's night. I kind of like, personally, I think that the timing, having hours in here would be easier for our officers.
From an enforcement standpoint.
Right, instead of going to AccuWeather.
Easier on the signage too.
And on, from the section here about the doing special events, I think it should say special borough events and just leave it as posted. Because, you know, we don't necessarily close the dock for, you know, private
Right,
weddings or venues. If we put signage up that says dock closed for fishing and crabbing due to a special event at the beginning of the dock, that would suffice. I
it's
think.
a special borough events.
June 21st, longest day, 8:30 PM.
Okay. I think we're good then. on that.
And then, Mayor, also violations and penalties, I increased it. Instead of $100 for the first offense to $250, and then, any subsequent offenses, $500 to $750.
I think that's more
How's that sound?
appropriate. Yeah, $100 to the trip to Chili's. That's not gonna dissuade anyone. So,
Sounds good.
okay.
My only other, not to pull thread, the special events, are they only ever approved by the borough or by council? Like,
The schedule is usually posted.
yeah,
When we have concerts or, you know, usually that rec commission will have that ahead of time.
okay,
For weddings.
yeah, just, or Fairhaven Day, right, like, okay, I'm good.
Thank you. This is now the public comment on agenda items portion of the meeting. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please observe a time limit of 3 minutes.
Hello, Bill Perkins, Hants Road, Fairhaven. So to speak on the ordinance of the crabbing and fishing. My fondest memory for my kid was my son Alex and Chief McGovern's son Joe crabbing all summer at the dock. And then taking their 5-gallon bucket of crabs at the end of the day and selling them on the corner of Fairhaven Road and River Road. To me, that was the Mayberry RFD thing that made Fairhaven what it is. I just don't want to see 10-year-old kids prohibited from being able to do this. First off, I'm not a fisherman, but crabbing and fishing are based on tides, not times of the day, but fishermen and crabbers tend to go out early or in the evening. More side note. The other thing is 9 o'clock at night, February, do we really want people on the dock at 8:59? I think in the summertime, 9 o'clock might not be a bad ending time, but if the idea is to keep people on the dock, I think 9 o'clock is late in the middle of the week. I personally would go with the sunrise to sunset. What's our ordinance for the rest of our parks in town? Are we open sunrise to sunset? Can you in the park after sunset?
Dusk.
Dusk. So why can't it be the same as every other park? Where it's a half hour after sunset, or I don't, my thing is, yes, it's easier for the police if it's 9 o'clock, anybody can look at their phone and see what the official sunset time is for Fairhaven. If we're gonna actually give somebody a ticket, I think we can find out when sunrise is and when sunset is, so I think the hours of 8 AM and 9 PM are prohibitive for 10-year-old kids having to ride their bikes. The dock and fish in the summertime or crab. I just think we should encourage it, not discourage it.
Great, thank you, Bill. Just the only thing I want to say to that is whatever we set here, and I think I'm gonna talk to the chief too and ask him, what can you enforce? Because it needs to be enforceable at a certain point. What are you comfortable enforcing? But what I would say is, whatever ordinance we sit with, that doesn't mean that's the ordinance for the end of time. That's just where we're starting. So if we get feedback from the community that this is too restrictive, it's a living, breathing document. We can manipulate the time to get to that sweet spot that works for everyone. And that's what, the main component of my communication to the community is balance. We gotta strike the right balance here on all these things we're talking about. Anyone else with a public comment?
Probably speak really well to that. Melissa Newell, I'm at 60 Fairweather. So I've lived literally in front of the dock for 10 years. And in that time, I have had little kids that are now big kids, and it has never been an issue with town residents, ever. I will say, since COVID, there's been a drastic change in the people that have been using the dock, and it has changed from town residents to people that do not live here. at all hours of the night. There has been people that have put mattresses. There have been people there at 2 a.m. My dog has gotten up barking because there are random people with New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina plates parked up and down the street at all hours. So what we're saying is a lot of the people that live in this area is, I want it to be just the kids crabbing, and I don't even really care, you wanna come fish, but like, there's guys that come from Piscataway with like headlights on, and they're there at 3 o'clock in the morning with chicken, and they're filling Gatorade bottles with urine, and they're leaving all of their garbage, they DoorDash food to the dock. I mean, it is, they come for the day, it is an 8-hour affair, they are catching anything and anything that they can, there is no size limit, they're not following the rules. In all the years that I've lived there, I have seen Fish and Game one time come, like a Parks and Rec fishing game, like with a gun, like the whole 9 yards, come in his truck and go and actually check people's catches and throw it back one time. I mean, granted, I'm not there all the time, but it is there, it's almost like a lawless land. There is very little regulation, oversight. I mean, there's a video on YouTube of a couple that went crabbing there and videoed making pork roll, egg and cheeses for breakfast on the dock. They brought a little propane stove. Like, so it's not the kids anymore that are crabbing. It has morphed into something that is not even remotely what we think of when the football players go there, you know, before a home game or before a Friday night game, or the kids are crabbing, or there's a wedding, or there's the band's playing. Like, those are the things that we want. So whatever you guys can do to help facilitate that is really what we want. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, honestly, like raw chicken is like, you can't let your dog down there because your dog will end up ingesting raw chicken and being at the vet. Like, that's, it's just, it's dirty. It's dirty. I don't let my kids aren't even allowed to go there when it starts to get dark because there's so many random people and my kids are in high school. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really morphed into something that is not how it was when my kids were little. And I have a daughter who, you can ask anybody here, she'd be 7 years old with chicken going down and hand lining crabs. She loved it. And I would let her go all the time. And I don't let her do that anymore. So it's just really changed into something different. And one of the things that we've kind of talked about is, if you are not a resident, why can't you have a permit? Why can't you have to come into town hall on a Tuesday between 12 and 2 and buy, it doesn't have to be a $100 permit, it could be a $20 permit. And just that extra step of having, you know, people are lazy, that extra step of having to go into Borough Hall at an appointed time to get a permit will automatically weed people out. You know what I mean? And I don't know how enforceable that is to say, do you live in town versus not, you know what I mean? But just that extra step of having people have to have some responsibility and they have to like write their name down. And then, you know, if the cops go down and see that there's garbage everywhere and raw chicken and urine in bottles and, you know what I mean? Like, or their license plates aren't even from New Jersey, you know what I mean? Then it's more of an enforceable thing. But I would say since COVID, it has drastically changed. So whatever you guys could do to help that would make everybody that lives in the historic district happy.
So great feedback and thank you. We've discussed the permit situation. I think it's something that we still are considering. I think we're going step by step to get the right balance again on what we do here. Just remember that, again, if it's our own kids, if it's Bill's kids going, we have to get the permits also. We can't enforce. We can't say residents don't need to and.
Like in Red Bank, if you're a resident, you can park on the street, but if you're not a resident, you don't get the pass to park on the street. So can it be that just residents get them?
It's a legal question there.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I work in Red Bank, and like, if you live in Red Bank, you can park on the streets at certain times, and if you don't, guess what? You're ticketed. You know what I mean? Like, so there are things that are specific to residents of towns.
We can look at that.
Little, sorry. Right.
Anyone else for the public comment?
I completely concur with Melissa. My name is City Malaraji and I live at 7th Fairhaven. Just wanted to add one thing. I go there every day, almost every day with my dog and the dog. And one of the issues I'm faced with is very specifically is that the individuals that are fishing with long poles that have a net at the end of it, these poles are like almost 10 to 12 feet long. they haven't that long because they want people to reach down and grab the crabs. I know it's a technicality, but what happens is when you have 10 of these individuals along the entire line pathway of the dock, while they're not fishing, they have these poles sitting on the ground, on the floor. I try to get through with my dog and to try to reach the end of it, I can't. And some of these individuals, and this is completely, this is just a fact. They don't speak English, and that's not the issue. The issue is that I can't communicate with them because I'm looking them in the eye and I'm saying, the pole, sometimes their wives would say, get your pole out of the way so that we can go through. So from a technical point of view, you know, considering the ordinance, I would like, if possible,
Yeah,
to just take that into consideration,
yeah,
because of the narrowness of the path and our ability to gain access, just simple access, because at night also, by the way, you can trip on one of these things with my own. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what was your name? I didn't.
My name is Elijah.
I think that's be something to, yeah, access, as not to inhibit access.
Access is important here.
Yeah, fair and reasonable access.
Even during the daytime, if you have this full park in that direction. I know it's unusual to talk about this, but believe me, I run into it regularly.
The specifics are important, thank you.
Thank you.
And if anyone has any expertise on whether those poles are necessary, maybe we restrict the size of the poles that are on the dock, I don't know, but.
I'm Peter Gotch, 268 Fairhaven Road. So I echo really good residents, what they're talking about with regard to the dock. I know from personal experience, we've had confrontations on that dock. And so the scenario is, if anyone's been there, when the football players and lacrosse players go before a game and all the parking is taken up. So imagine that scenario, but it's not football players or lacrosse players, it's crabbers or fishers, again, completely from out of state. And they are lining the side of the dock, their kids are on mattresses along the dock, right? They've got the chicken bones, they've got coolers, God only knows what's in them. And we've had multiple occasions, we're walking a couple dogs down the dock. Guy races towards you, no, you know, angry dog or dangerous dog, don't come down. You're talking to me? This is my dock. So anyway, we turn around and call the police. And I think I even talked to Joe, I was like, you get a sense of it, so we send someone, and then the officer reported back and goes, it's like a little pesky dog, like you can walk, but I can't do anything about it, because the only thing I could do something about it is if they were drinking or doing drugs. They have absolute access to everything they're doing. I was like, what about the kids in the mattresses? He goes, I can't do anything about that at all. I said, what if they sleep over? He said, I can't do anything about that at all. So not only is there a significant draw down the block with regard to this infrastructure down at the end of the block that tightens up. And the parking gets very difficult. It's hard to back out of your driveway. I mean, one thing the town may want to look at eventually, if somebody is these kids on these electric scooters doing 30 miles an hour with that helmets on. And you have all these cars down there. Someone's gonna get killed. Little kid's gonna get killed down there at some point. So it's a big draw. There's not infrastructure to handle it, and it gets to a point where you can't even go on a dock. But I don't know what can be done about it. Like Melissa said, maybe parking pass. Like, can you say at this part of the road, you need a parking pass? Or maybe in all the town needs a parking pass. I'll get a parking pass, it's a big deal.
So it's something it sounds like we're gonna look into the parking.
Yes.
And see what can be done, but
It's
again,
a
if
big issue.
You
I mean,
can't,
it's
the problem is you can't limit access to Green Acres. So that's one thing you have to be careful of.
Right.
We can look at certain things, but I believe that this ordinance has created and will continue to work on it. Make, a couple tweaks here and there, is that, with specific times.
Yeah.
There's nothing out into a interpretation.
Yeah.
It's specific times, and I believe this ordinance, and to go to Melissa's point. One of the clauses says, whereas there should not be any open flames or cooking that occurs unless the appropriate authority approvals have been obtained.
Right.
So that's also something that we've considered.
Right.
And put in this ordinance.
Right, but then you also have the police, right? So us at the end of the dock, we are like the police dispatchers. Like, we know what's going on. So I think you'd have to combine this with extra patrols down there. Or like they have at, the park in Rumson, the one across the ferry field. They have gate, so like when parks close, that's gate. Can you put a gate on the end of, the dock? They did it in Rumson.
It's not designed yet. We can do what we want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole idea is, that's why we want community feedback to let us know how to find the right balance in a design.
Right, I'm just letting you know, you go there certain days, certain times, it's like, you're ready to like throw down, you're ready to get in a fight, it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Well, this ordinance allows that, the police officers to do, their job and to now enforce,
Right,
certain time frames, that, permitted hours. And, certain penalties now, so now we have a penalty of $250, so maybe
Right.
all of the fishermen and, I guess crabbers.
right,
They know, hey, you come to Fairhaven and there's a one violation, that's $250 out of my
Right.
pocket,
right,
so maybe that deters.
right. I would ask you that, there's gotta be some like designed enforcement, it just can't be us, like calling the cops constantly. Right, because that's probably what would happen, I'd ask that there's more focus.
I think with anything new, there's gonna be more of a focus on it, and I would also add. The draw to the dock for the people on the bed isn't because it's a nice place to take a nap. They're coming down there to crab and fish. That's what it is. That's the essence of why this is being written the way it is and why we're trying to find that sweet spot to encourage our residents to make use of the dock and maybe encourage commercial fishermen not to make use of the dock.
Right,
So,
right. I think our residents are encouraged, they're discouraged often.
Sure.
That's the problem.
But please don't get any disputes.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick, one thing, the chief sent out a memo and notes and went out constant contact on the website specifically about Third Street, specifically about scooters, electric bikes, what the rules are, all of that. So just wanted to highlight that went out like last week.
That'd be dangerous.
Anyone else in the public? Comment on agenda items?
Yeah, one thing,
You got-
Brent Burdick, 69 Fairhaven Road. Just to add on to what everybody else was discussing in terms of the use of the dock at the end of the street. I don't know whose decision it was years ago to put a porta potty there for the summer season, because that is just a crutch and it encourages people to stay there daily. So as a resident, I would ask that that's removed because I don't see a reason for it. But then you come to the issue the same way as people drinking and peeing in bottles. The garbages need to be emptied more often, because that's one of the things that I've noticed, is that the garbage is chronically full because of the amount of people that are there. I think putting no parking towards the end of the street would help significantly, as that is one of the biggest buildups. And then just enforcing, as everybody else has said, I don't want to see a gate on the dock. I think that closing off something that's for us is terrible. I think more enforcing the law is a more appropriate way, and posting things the right way in terms of policy. You guys are talking about what can be written. You could write whatever you want. I would say restricting fishing and crabbing at a certain time is fine, as long as you're gonna enforce it. I don't see a reason as a fisherman and a crabber to have a cooler on the dock. So put a rule that says no coolers on the dock, and again, you're cut off on a whole nother crutch for somebody to have to stay there.
Good thoughts.
Thanks.
Great thoughts.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
No coolers, no mattresses. No, we have to write it down.
We'll go over.
I think you guys find out what people are coming for.
People should not be able to have, all that food I've been there and I've seen food galore and.
But there's also people,
Everything else, we should restrict.
there's also people using the bait. We can discuss this.
I think you guys need to cut it down. I'm a lawbreaker all the time. This big.
It's on the record.
Yeah, it just cut it down, make it simple, make it clear, and then the police will have something to enforce.
Rich Purcell, 65 Fairhaven Road. We talked the other day, the biggest issue on our street is so much traffic. We've got trucks from the commercial district, we've got landscapers everywhere, trucks and machines and cars parking, and then the dock is just packed cars packed all over the street. What are you gonna do about cars, parking, if you open up the end of the street with a new park? The whole dock thing, all this, I mean, we can't handle any more traffic. And then the gentleman said, somebody, there's gonna be thousands of people. With 1,000 kids in it. That's what makes the neighborhood really special.
Right.
I've been here for 28 years. And it's impossible to go down the street. There's so much going on. It's really crazy. So opening up a park at the end of the street, I love the idea of a park at the end of the street. But to make it a recreation area with buildings and water parks or anything like that, that's nonsense. And having open access for a park for crabbing and fishing, that's fantastic. But you can't have the mess that's left down in the dock right now. And the traffic has to be addressed in some way, shape, or form. There's no place to go. It's free. Thanks.
Thank-
So, I would just say again, you know, you look at the Normandy Park, there's no increased traffic flow down to that park. I do realize that this is next to our municipal, pier there. My thought again is the people that are coming down are attracted to the crabbing and fishing. And if we tighten that up, you know, the piece of land that we're talking about from an acquisition standpoint is not gonna be any more of a draw to out-of-towners than the Normandy Park is. I don't see an increased amount of traffic based on that scenario. I don't, however, it's something that before we design and build anything, and when I say build, I just mean the park itself. I'm not talking about buildings or water parks. None of that has been discussed. We're gonna have to thoughtfully consider the needs of your community, of your residential neighborhood before we do anything over there. And we understand that. And that's why we have open houses for a DPW and a police department, because we want to do it the right way. And then this is no different. We're gonna want to do it the right way. So we certainly are not looking to make things worse in your neighborhood. We're trying to make them better and make them better for the entire community of Fairhaven. So, thank you. Anyone else?
So are we currently addressing the issue with the land?
It is an agenda item, so this would
We
be.
haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, we haven't done it.
It's an agenda item, so this would be. Absolutely, absolutely.
How's it done? Oh, sure. So it's an email already, it's 70 Fairhaven Road. When I buy any land or when we buy a land, we're supposed to know what we're going to be doing with the land in general. What we're going to be doing with the land is extremely important, especially that we're going to put money into the land. And when we buy the land also, we have to consider how it's going to affect us in buying that land, especially for people right down the street and what's going to happen to them, to their properties. All of that has to be taken into consideration. And of course, the value of the land, obviously. The value of our properties associated with it. Proceeding without understanding what is required there, what are we going to do with that land? Opens it to a variety of possibilities. We need to at least address it in a manner whereby we say, hey, let's have a specific set of things that we're going to be doing before we go and start investing into something that we're not sure what we're going to be doing with it. And without asking us here and saying, hey, what are we going to do with this land specifically? So I'm bringing to your attention the fact that I know that there's a vote tonight in regards to going ahead and applying for the grant from the.
We're introducing the ordinance tonight.
What does that mean exactly? When you're introducing the
Yeah,
ordinance? What does that mean?
So the ordinance will be read on the record,
Right?
and there will be a time for discussion, or we can have the discussion now. And then we will vote to take it to another hearing, at which it will be finally adopted.
You actually, so you're voting today to buy the property, or you're just voting to make it an ordinance to buy the property? I guess I don't understand the semantics.
Right, so we're gonna go through the ordinance, we're gonna introduce it tonight, the ordinance, and then we'll have a second reading. That be
November 3rd.
3 weeks.
November 13th,
Yes.
November 13th, at which time it would be adopted if voted in the affirmative.
Adopted to purchase, or are we talking about the funding?
Purchase.
And that funding,
Is already
In that-
secured.
is that already secured?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so really, let's continue this discussion, but I believe that it's important for us to very clearly define, what is it that we're going to be doing with this before?
We vote on it. Yeah.
It's good purchase, it's gonna be a park. I mean, that-
It is,
yeah.
it's good. It's good.
That, we are acquiring this land with the purpose of making this land a park.
Is that documented in the documented anyway?
We need broker.
If you're gonna speak, just please, I just ask one person at a time, announce your name and address, and we can go forward.
Yeah, sure. Sure, so. I did announce my name, so you know, Raji.
No, just because he's taking notes.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes. So where is it written that is going to be a farm? In the newspaper?
I'm unclear on the question. What is the other purpose that you think we're acquiring the land?
I don't.
I'm telling you, we're on the record at multiple meetings for years talking about the fact that this lot is gonna be built into a park.
So please, one second, please.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you're telling me verbally,
Well, okay,
I'm clarifying the question.
Let me just step in.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're voting here tonight to introduce an ordinance that will allow us to purchase the property. What they do later on, it might be this mayor and council, it might be a future governing board. But what's being determined here tonight is whether this ordinance is gonna be introduced and gone to a second reading, at which time the decision would be made to purchase the property. There's
Is there a stage in there where there's going to be a definition of what we are going to do with the property? No, okay.
well, it has to be used because of the grant.
I understand there's an issue you're having, okay, but I'm having a little trouble with your expectation of the process, and just bear with me for a second. When the Sickle School wanted to build an addition on their school, they didn't design the school and then acquire the property to put the school on. That's not the order of that's not how it can be done. When Fairhaven Fields, they didn't see Fairhaven Fields, which is, I know it was misrepresented in an email what I said, but they didn't say, we're gonna build 3 baseball fields and 2 soccer fields. They acquired the property and then they figured out what they were gonna do. When Fort Monmouth over in Oceanport, they didn't say to themselves, we're gonna have Netflix here, we're gonna have the Fort Athletic Club, and we're gonna have this. No, the town acquired the property, and then after the fact, they figured out the specifics. And in that plan, the planning process, they went from step A to step Z to make sure they were doing it the right way. Okay, so I can't tell you what B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, on and on is right now. What I can tell you is step A is to acquire a piece of property that's valued at $1.8 million, that's gonna benefit 6,000 of our residents to have municipal land adjacent to our municipal dock. And and quite truthfully, we're gonna do it in a thoughtful way. We're not, this isn't like a steamroller type project where we're just gonna be like, this is what you're getting, and you're getting a water slide, and you're getting a concession stand, and there's gonna be a deli up close, to the houses in the neighborhood. That's not what we're talking about here.
I understand that, and you're not prepared to go into the specifics.
We don't have the specifics.
Correct.
Part of the,
Please, let me finish my.
well, let me just jump in just so I can make something clear. So we are obtaining financing and we are also receiving grants. And what gets tied in is how we have to use the property. And it's green acres and it has to be used for that purpose.
So what does that
It's
mean?
open, it will have to be made as open space.
And what
both
does
the
that
county-
stage mean?
Both the county, it means that we cannot develop it to the point of, you wouldn't have open space access to it. They have to either, it's parkland, they could just, put in a living, future governing bodies. But they could just put a living shoreline in and put grasses there and leave it as a, passive park or just something as a buffer to the water. But it has to remain as open space. The county and the state of New Jersey will require what's called a deed of open space easement that the borough will have to execute. So we can't turn around and then, the building municipal building not part and say for something on those lines, it will have to remain open space.
So, as the mayor very well said, it could be developed into a spray park. It's an open space, right?
It's a recreational use. Could it be?
Just checking.
Yes. Will it be?
No, just checking, I'm just checking.
It could also be purchased by a private land developer who could build whatever he
No,
wants.
no, we're talking about us purchasing it now, we're not talking about somebody else, okay? Let's very specifically talk about what we are talking about right now. Not about somebody else purchasing it, we are.
It's right. It's public comment. It's not, this isn't a trial by jury.
No, I'm not being a trial, I'm not talking about trial by jury, and I'm trying to express the fact that if, the area that we're purchasing becomes a spray park, then I can tell you right.
What makes you think it's gonna be a spray park?
What?
Just-
Listen to all.
Let me just.
What the grant is,
I'll let you speak.
what are the
I'll let you speak.
parameters of the grant?
Hurricane Sandy came in and blew out that piece of land. The house is full of mold, it's dilapidated. Why would we put infrastructure in with plumbing in a place where that happened? Why would any governing body do that?
All I'm asking for is where is the simple outline that says, what is this going to become?
It's gonna be a park.
Where is that written? That was my initial question, my simple question. Where is it written down that it's going to be a park? It's a simple question.
The resolution, that is tied directly to the funding from Green Acres and Monmouth County Open Space money, limits the use of the land to either conservation or recreation. Those are the parameters. However, I follow you exactly when you say that's still a little bit of an unknown.
Correct.
It leaves us wondering, well, what does that mean? There are many different manifestations of recreation or conservation. I share your concern.
Sure, thank you.
Yes,
And I appreciate you clarifying that it could be recreation also, right?
that's an option,
We just spoke about recreation that is occurring at the end of the dock.
correct.
And we're trying to actually pass ordinances that are associated with that recreation. What you're suggesting is that that new space that we are about to purchase can become also recreational. And what I'm suggesting is I don't think that is such a good idea, given that we already have a recreational space there. And when we are going to purchase this land, we're going to be obliged to either provide an open space or a recreational space, as you just specified. Am I correctly saying this, or am I missing the?
So one thing to consider here is we have a master plan, the Borough of Fairhaven. Right, and it's clearly spelled out in 3 different segments of the master plan. 3/4 of respondents stated they would better enjoy the borough's parks and open space if there was increased access to the Navesink River. Similarly, nearly 3/4 of respondents stated support for acquiring land along the river for enhanced public access.
No problem, yes.
Other common ideas include improving or expanding parks and open space and improving or expanding recreational facilities. The most common use for the Navesink River is boating, motorized and non-motorized, and fishing. Navesink River access, enhanced public access to the river is necessary. Such access should include, but not be limited to, the property at 78 de Normandy Avenue that was recently acquired with NJDEP Blue Acres funds. This includes improvements to existing access locations, non-motorized boat ramp, and acquisition of property for access where possible. Grange Avenue enhanced roads should be enhanced. Utilization of Monmouth County Open Space Grant Fund should facilitate this. Open space preservation. In November of 2014, New Jersey voters approved via referendum a constitutional amendment that will dedicate money from a business tax toward open space preservation. While it has not yet been decided how these funds will be allocated, the referendum will lead to a continuous funding stream for open space preservation and stewardship. Although little undeveloped private land exists in Fairhaven, opportunities to take advantage of this source of funding for preservation or stewardship should be sought, particularly to facilitate public access to the Navesink River. We have clear direction here from the Borough of Fairhaven, from a master plan standpoint, that we need additional access to the Navesink River. It's clearly spelled out. Your question to me was what will come of the park? What will come of the piece of land that we're acquiring? And I've answered your question, sir.
Maybe I can just briefly address it slightly differently. Where have we done recreation, excessive recreation in publicly owned land in Fairhaven in any of the open areas by the water? What do we have at the end of Grange? A bench?
But we have two, but,
There's a kitchen here.
What do we have at the end of Hansborough?
I think nothing, correct, correct.
We have the boat ramp,
Small water.
barely usable,
Correct.
small, no access because the river rat is separate, that's not access for anybody else. And we have the Normandy Park. What's in the Normandy Park? Benches?
Benches? Sure.
So I think maybe if you take a step back, I think you'll show that prior councils have not chosen to do some crazy recreation project in any of the open, of the lands, public lands that we own in front of the waterfront. So I don't know why we would think that future councils will make some decision that is not taking into consideration the needs of your community and the constraints of your roads. So
Right.
we cannot say exactly.
You don't
what would
understand
be
that,
there.
sure. You don't.
Of course we do, but at the same time, you have to place it in the context of what have we actually done in the past? And this year,
Well,
the entire year,
right,
this council spent speaking with the community about DPW and the police station, and in fact, completely redid the plan for the police station was scratched completely and came up with a different plan. Using community feedback, so I think, like land purchases are opportunistic. We don't always plan for that, but I think there needs to be some trust that of course future councils will be working with the community because we would want something that will beautify your area and it will also benefit the 6,000 residents of Fairhaven.
so yes, there is a pattern, I agree, there is a pattern where there is going to become a park, possibly.
I'll even come back to you, but it's supposed to be 3 minutes. Can we just have, she's up next and I'll be happy to come back to you, sir.
Melissa Schlickman, 25 Fairhaven Road. So it sounds like to me, you're basically saying we need to trust you guys with this one. So I think on behalf of all my neighbors, we don't feel very trustworthy right now because I don't think we even knew that tonight was about the purchase of the land. Right. So I think for me, a trust thing, that's a little hard. I don't know where we'll be in 20 years or where we'll be in 5 years. So I think that's one issue. The other issue is safety. Like we just spoke about the dock and crabbing. My son is 7 years old and his crab traps were stolen. Like this is ridiculous. So how are we going to make sure that it doesn't spiral? Like we're talking about permits and this and that, but we're gonna maybe put on this side a spray park, maybe basketball courts, maybe just a bench, maybe whatever, right? But at the end of the day, it's still gonna draw more people, right?
Can I ask a question?
So my question to you though is, how do you get us feeling good about the safety?
By engaging the community, by a raise of hands, please put your hand up if you want to spray park, including the mayor and the council people.
Josh mentioned the future.
Okay,
I
no,
mentioned
please.
to you that it was brought up and we shot it down immediately and then an email went out to the community saying we were gonna put a spray park in.
Can somebody raise their hand? Sorry. Can somebody raise their hand if they're interested in a spray park? Because we could put that to bed for the rest of the night.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. There's no spray parks in our future.
With a bench.
Yeah, bench,
There's a
great,
bench, right?
yes.
And there's gonna be more people down there, so safety, I just wanna understand what the town will do because. My car was stolen, but that's a whole separate issue, my kids' crab traps were stolen, and now we're gonna stick more stuff down there for more people to come down, so I'd like to hear what your plan is for that. And then the other thing is parking. Like when I think about Victory Park, I was thinking about that today. Is there 50 spots there? How will we put parking down by the dock? And I know like during the garden nightmare, you said like maybe have 4 or 5 pulling spots. I don't see 5 pulling spots solving the parking issue. And like I said, I have a 3 and a 7-year-old. So if you guys are gonna put this park here, please tell me you'll feel comfortable that people aren't gonna be racing down, that I have to pull my kids off the streets to make it safe. Because you guys should be protecting us.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, what do you think of the parking situation at the Norman?
It's so
different.
We're talking about the same piece of land. The difference is the dock. Yeah, it's the same piece of land, it's the same size land because of the dock, there's more traffic.
Yeah, but
Correct.
the size of the street is different.
It's the fishing and crabbing, and your comment that, you know, we're gonna bring more people down there, I want more residents down there. I do, I want more residents to make use of the river.
Let's make sure we can handle those residents, with the parking and the feeding and making sure everybody's safe and secure. Because I do think we all do want something down there. Nobody wants an eyesore. We want to work with you guys,
Yep.
but we do feel blindsided. And we want to make sure that there's transparency, security, and that this whole parking thing is solved for. And I think you'll have a lot more happy people standing behind me. And those three things are addressed.
Can I just want to respond real quick, if you don't mind. Thank you, Juan, for speaking up, everybody for being here. So, when we walked into the facility project, right, you're hitting on a couple themes that we want to cover this year, right? I want to validate that, right? Sometimes maybe decisions made in a vacuum, right? We do come up against challenges with communication, right? We do constant contact, we do website, only 65% of residents are on constant contact, so we don't have everybody, and it is tough to keep track.
Sure.
And when the facilities came on, right, we knew we were gonna build a police department, right? We knew we were gonna build a community center, we knew we were gonna build DPW. The community center was a little bit easier to, I'm gonna say design than the DPW building, because the DPW building is an industrial site. I'll land my plane in a minute. The DPW site is an industrial site, a residential area. So as Leilani said, we went back to the drawing board, and what we started with, right, was the community engagement and the open houses, right? Where there was full transparency, and it wasn't just open houses. So I'm gonna use DPW as the example, right? So there's 3 main streets, right? I don't count, Hendrickson's important, but there's a huge buffer on the Hendrickson side, if anybody knows the Hendrickson side, right? So you have Allen, right? You have Maple and you have Third. We had individual meetings with each one of those streets, right? Before we even went to the open houses, right? We hired a professional planning group that does this type of design and to come in and help inform the whole process. So understanding the transparency, understanding the trust, right? If you've listened in to the beginning of our borough meetings in the new year, that is what we are looking. We have to make sure the trust exists, has to, right? And you're 100% right. It's our job to do that. It's our job to make sure this place is safe. So using the experience of this governing body over the last 10, 11 months, which has been extensive community engagement, extensive white glove service, that is what will happen. Now, there are practicalities that we have to live within, right? We couldn't install 1,000 plants at DPW. The cost came back so outrageous that it just would have put us over the top, right? And I'm using that as one of many examples, right? So it just, that's what I can offer you, you know, based on what we've done.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think that we're looking for the back and forth.
100%, right? And yes, 100%.
Can I ask one question?
So,
What does the grant say we have to do?
so the last public notice on this was in 2021 in August, which is 25 months ago. That was the last public notice.
No.
No, that's true.
No, it wasn't, because the ordinance to purchase the property, the $1.8 million was approved in October of 22. So there was an ordinance last year that the governing body introduced to put up $1.8 million aside. That was discussed like this, then introduced, then approved. And that was done last fall.
So why are we introducing it again tonight?
This is the introduction to acquire it, not to allocate the funds for it. Is that correct, Teresa?
Yes.
So I think that's some of the concern is no one in this community knew that. Knew of it, even though it might have been published, we understand that, right?
Fair.
And the first time we had heard anything about this was when Beth and I came to the meeting on the 10th, right? So that's two weeks ago. So everything is happening very quickly, right? Because the meeting was on the 10th and now we're at this meeting to vote. Josh, I know the conversations have been going on, right? But these discussions with the public, this has been happening quickly. You guys have had a lot of executive session meetings in private and secret conversations about this that no one knows, right? Well, the community didn't know that.
But
So
Let me just clarify real quick, because I've been the borough attorney here for, I believe, about 3 years now. And every notice was sent out. This is the most amount of people that have been in a council meeting. For any reason whatsoever.
Yes.
No, the reason I'm saying that is every notice has been approved, every notice has been properly noticed to the community. We've had multiple meetings.
Right.
And it's been in every agenda we can provide that.
All right, so you have to excuse everyone for not reading through the agendas, which are very, very.
It's been on every tax letter I sent out to the town.
Well, so people don't read.
It's been in every
and
focus
maybe
letter.
the channels of communications are not appropriate, because now that people know they're here. So it's almost irrelevant what happened in the past. Everyone is concerned now, okay?
With all due respect, this is my husband speaking. I live at 23 Fairhaven Road. I went through every single agenda item for 2023. Not once is 21 Fairhaven Road listed at all, except October 10th, which is why the two of us were here 2 weeks ago and found out what was going on. I looked at every agenda item. I saw you're shaking your head. I've never seen 21 Fairhaven Road. The only thing I've seen is MCOS grants interface.
Yeah.
And I said, did that trigger this conversation? There is nothing that says, and all due respect, I like I said before, I'm happy you do the work that you do. But I speak for everyone here. None of us had no idea that this process was moving forward and becoming understood. 2021, there was a conversation that talked about making it a passive park. We got a public notice. We never saw a public notice for what was happening this year.
So if I may, right, I want to make sure that there's not a lexicology breakdown, right?
Okay.
And let's
appreciate it.
let's put aside perception that the communications either weren't received or people weren't reading, or let's put all that aside for a minute, right? So 21 Fairhaven Road, right, has been on public discussion way before in 21. And it had to be in 22. I wasn't here. I wasn't elected, right, in 2022. Then, when this topic came up, there was a conversation that we had, right? Correct, in which I kept you appraised of the executive session discussions.
Right.
And there, yes, right, but it went into, right, and provided here. So I just want to make sure that we're being clear, right? And there were 3 possible scenarios that we talked about. Don't buy the land at large, right? Partial division, right? And then purchase it. And all that information was handed back to the governing body during executive session. And Teresa or Andrew, you guys can describe what executive session purpose is. So we're talking about 2 different pieces, right? We're talking about perception that communication wasn't done in some type of threshold. And then we're talking about the speed. Right, and then we're talking about being involved in the process when it comes to the design and what it's used for. So
I'm sorry, Drew, not to interrupt you, but I stood here just now just to represent my community that feels like they had no idea any of this was being discussed. And that's why I stood up.
That's fair.
Whatever.
That's fair.
I wanna say something.
And if, Mr. Brown, I'm gonna finish.
I've lived in this town longer than anybody here, all right? My family,
Please,
has lived in this town.
sir, please state your name.
And I've been, well, I'm very upset about this, because there's a lot of things. Number 10, Fair Waters Lane. I'm the closest to the dock living there, all right? I've lived there for 86 years. Now, let me tell you something. I've asked people, when I paid my taxes the last time, what's going on with 21 Fairhaven Road? And their answer was nothing. There's no discussion, nothing. That's from the people upstairs. All right? And they said somebody will call you, bring you up to date if there's anything to bring you up to date on. Well, of course, I never got a phone call. Then I left a message with the mayor, who showed at one time when he came to my house, he gave me a card and he gave me his phone number and said to call him anytime. And I did call, but I never got a return call.
Sir, you've never left
All
me a
right,
message.
now let me tell you something about this whole thing. First of all, the only reason
is halfway presentable is because of me. I clean it up all the time. All right, everybody that lives here. Yes. Nobody comes down there to do a damn thing. They come there early in the morning, bang around a few ash cans and leave. They don't clean anything, they don't touch anything. There's people on that dock starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. I look out my bedroom window, which looks right onto the public dock. At 4 o'clock in the morning, there's people coming and parking on that street. And they stay there all day. They've got their coolers and all kinds of stuff. And I asked one guy, I said to him, you know, I noticed that your license plate says New York State. He says, yeah, I've been coming here for years, he said to me. I said, well, I'm surprised you would come such a distance to be at this dock. Well, what did the town do? They put in a porta potty originally, now they have two, I guess a male and female. Then they put in water, a water sprinkler, they hooked up, so they made it even that much nicer for people to spend the whole day there. They come with all kinds of stuff. They leave their garbage, they throw it out the window. I saw an Asian couple come there one day and they had a big bottle of wine. And the next day I noticed on the street was a wrapper with Chinese writing on it. And they just threw it out the window after they finished the bottle of wine. This is the kind of stuff that goes on down there. Now, nobody has brought me up to date at all about buying 21 Fairhaven Road. I'm vehemently opposed to it. We have a parking disaster right now on that street. All right, cars come down there and block up the whole street. If we ever had a fire and a fire engine had to come down there, forget it. All right, the whole street, as people pointed out, is blocked up during the day with landscapers parking their stuff all over the place, and you can hardly get down the street. Now, the town, I think, has been dishonest as far as I'm concerned about this whole thing. Because I asked about it for a long time, ever since there was an article that pointed out they were gonna build a park, considered a park, so-called passive park. Well, that didn't seem too bad. But the thing I wanna ask you is where's the money coming from? Every quarter, it seems like my taxes go up. They just went up substantially, over 24.5%. This is outrageous. All I see this group doing when I read the thing is figuring out how to spend more money. All right, that's what's going on. And it's to the point where I seriously might have to leave the town. Become too expensive to live here. All right, on top of that, they want to build this park. The town has a terrific history of buying up parcels of land and turn them into a park. And what happened? The one over by the Fairhaven Yacht Works, that park, nobody ever uses. I go there all the time. I walk through the town almost every day. All right, nobody goes to that park. The only one that uses the park is the guys who mow the lawn and put down fertilizer for the lawn. There's no people there. All right, it's just a waste of money. It took a valuable piece of property on the river that could have been sold as a single family home, increased the taxes. No. Instead of that, you did just the reverse. You took a property off the tax rolls so that and increased the cost to the town by having to maintain it and insure it and all that. So this idea of having another park
Where's the money coming from? How much is the town? That's what I'd like to ask. How much does the town have to put into this project of money from the town? Do you know? Because I'll tell you something. How much
We do have an idea,
is the
sure.
town gonna spend?
So we do have an idea, a few things real quick. First of all, thank you for your comments. Secondly, I might disagree on the subject, a lot of people in the room, but there's no one in this room that'll say that I won't call you back. And I've spent hours on the phone this week with many of the same people in this room, so maybe you called the wrong number, you're welcome to call me anytime, get it from your son. Anytime you wanna talk, I will talk, I never got your message. Number three, as far as money, like, the only thing I'd say, that the accusation that this council is willing to spend as much money on whatever we could find, I think is a little bit unfair. I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. I'm gonna go back about a year. You know, we were about to spend over $30 million on two town buildings, and the only one in this room I remember being here is Bill Perkins. He's the only one here, and we took that feedback and we did a full stop, and at the end of the day, I mean, it's not defined yet, but we're gonna save this town, you know, close to $10 million based on a cost avoidance. So the idea that we're not financially responsible or prudent in decisions that we're making, I do think is a little bit unfair. I think every step.
Town gonna spend on this
So
project?
Teresa has a breakdown. She'll take you through it right now.
Purchase price of the property is $1,790,000. Green Acres is going to fund $447,500, with the remaining $52,500 that be used for soft costs, for a total of $500,000. The Monmouth County is going to give us $1,608,750, which is 75% of the purchase price after the Green Acres funding, after the Green Acres $500,000. The borough's funds in total to the purchase out of the $1.79 million, $335,625.
What the town's paying.
$335,625 for the million that.
There's not a person in this room that if I offered them that piece of property for that amount of money would not buy that piece of property.
Great.
I agree.
Who else would buy that property?
Yeah, really.
Mr. Russ, can I ask that question? Go ahead. All right, so I just have a couple questions. Why do you have this on the schedule to vote tonight? Is there a compelling reason that this has to happen tonight? Because as you heard, even though there were communications that went out, they were not in the lines of communications that we all see, so nobody saw it. So now, everyone knows, we're all here. So one question is, why does this have to happen tonight?
It's introduced tonight, it's not adopted.
I'm saying the vote.
Who's got problem?
Yeah, okay. If the vote was suspended based on community concern tonight, what would happen?
Well, I believe that, Teresa, you can go over the timeframes within which Monmouth County is requiring. And the seller of the property, they don't have to sell it to us.
Well, I guarantee you, the seller has no other buyers. There is nobody else can buy that property.
Let's get real here.
No,
There's
there's
plenty
no problem.
It's Peter,
It's nobody.
Peter, what's the delay that you're looking for? If you can.
All right, so the question is, given the concerns of everybody and that there probably is no ramifications for delaying this, I think everyone's concerned as to what is going to happen there and the open-ended planning around. Okay, so Josh, hold on. Initially, the park was going to be purchased and it was going to be passed. Now the Monmouth County grant, the document you sent me, allows tremendous activity to happen there. Whether it's, I know you were being facetious, a spray park, a pickleball court, basketball, but it can happen. The next mayor and council, their kids are into skateboarding. That's the place for the half pipe. Okay, and it would be allowed, given the grant, right?
in my opinion, this show of solidarity is for that meeting. You're talking about why would we delay something right now?
Yes.
And again, I only gonna vote if it were to be tied tonight.
If it's late, what happens?
This is what I'm saying. I only gonna vote if it's tied tonight, right?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing aren't reasons not to acquire the property. What I'm hearing are reasons to really, really thoughtfully design what we're doing down there and ensure that we do it in the right way.
Yes, I agree.
And they're two different things. And I hear you, but I turn that around and say, you're saying that no one's gonna buy the property. Trust me. And just like you said to me before, I can't trust you. We have this opportunity right now. You know, listen, Mr. Rice's property is gorgeous, but I don't think that one's going up for sale.
His property is up.
So we have one opportunity to get a piece of property adjacent to the dock.
I got it.
And that opportunity is now with
got
the funding we have to have the least impact to taxpayers in the
All
borough.
right, so my further question is, the Monmouth County grant has no restrictions as to what can happen to the property, making the property potentially active. I read the document.
That's not true. It has to be for recreational use.
Yes, for recreation, so
Yes.
half pipes, basketball courts.
No, but it's.
tennis
not-
courts. No.
No.
Is that something that you-
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
That's.
I can send you a list. If it's for recreational use, it can, for instance, like you could build restrooms on the property if they supported recreational use, okay? I'm gonna go back to, I can't promise you, because I don't know if I'll be here. I can't promise you, but again, that lot was flooded out in sand. It's low lying, okay? For us to put a building there with plumbing in a place where it's obviously flooded out in the past. It doesn't sound like a reasonable thing that a governing body would decide to do. And that's the time for this show of solidarity to come up there and tell them this is not what we want. I'll tell you what, I think it was Brent that brought it up. I could have the wrong person. When he said not to have the bathroom down there, that resonated with me. I'm not sure there's a reason to have the bathroom down there.
You did it for the concert.
For the concert.
For the concert.
I understand that, but the concerts are primarily our residents.
No, residents can
and
use my house. They can use my house.
It's a short commute.
So let me just ask, Bob, so the Monmouth County grant has no restrictions as to recreational use, building things for recreational purposes. So one question I had is, would the council submit another ordinance in conjunction with this process, the vote to buy it, with restrictions in it? Like, could we work with you and build an ordinance that restricts what can be there and override the grant from the county? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I sort of hear what you're saying. I guess my question is, remember we were talking about crabbing and fishing before, we said it's a living, breathing document? I don't know what would restrict the future governing body from just changing that language into unrestricting it. I don't know.
Can I address what Karen and said very, I don't think there's any reason not to put the effort forward to a governing body of what the desires. It's good for the town now. It's good for the town then. And that's what our planning process is for. And that's what land use laws are for. You don't make land use laws and say, oh, that could upset the 2026 mayor. Are you kidding me? The idea is you have this body in this room right now that says, I have serious concerns about this. You gone in the paper. Maybe you didn't, but we're quoted as saying the borough is authorized to incur necessary costs for project completion. We don't have a definition of a project. We do now have a definition of acquisition cost, but we don't have a development cost. That implies that we have an unlimited, unended, uncapped, undefined budget for the development of this project. I propose that if this goes through, we need some guardrails on this. That we're buying now and planning later. It doesn't work for the people that live there. That the budget for the development of that property is only what you have purported it to be, which is the demolition of that house and the naturalization of the water line.
Right.
That's it. That's all. That's all we support, and we wouldn't like that codified something. We'd like that made law. Any improvement to that lot or any development of that lot would have to go to the planning board and the Historic Preservation Commission, because that's part of the district. That property is subject to the district.
That's true. There's also.
Again, you're talking about two different things. We're talking about the acquisition of the property.
And I'm past that. I've said, okay. Teresa's told me what that costs. I've got two issues. One being that we cap this budget. You should be able to get a price on what it takes to demolish that building and cart it off. And we should be able to ask T&M or wherever our engineers are these days. What about naturalizing? What's involved there? What's the Department of Environmental Protection want? What's the situation? We have this resource, why aren't we using them? To create a budget that's realistic, that as taxpayers, we say, okay, we can embrace this. To say, trust me, no offense to any of you, that's nonsense. We don't govern with trust me, and I know who somebody might be as mayor in 2026, you can trust them too. This is nonsense. We have problems down here. Everyone here is supportive of a passing situation in open space, and there's been a lot of discussion of this as open space. The impression people are getting is that it's just that, not that it's recreation and going to be attracting, not that it's going to create more of a problem, but in fact that it's going to be a naturalized space. We have all of this misunderstanding when we say we're taking money whose mission it is preservation in open space. You have people thinking completely green parks here. Now, you know, you can go all around about it, but that is a low-lying property with some serious issues. And the storm that washed it out created a whole new set of laws. That's a very biblical problem. I'm not even sure what price. That's neither here nor there. Do these taxpayers want to pay $336,000 to see that property cleaned up? Do we agree to an appropriate budget for that to happen? And then anything else gets a budget and a plan and a review process. Your administration, the next administration, the administration after that, we do hold their hands. We do bind their decisions with good planning. That's what it's for. So to say, we're just gonna buy it, don't know what we're gonna do with it, we'll kick it down the road. And, you know, everybody's nice in this town, everybody governs this place. You know, this is kind of crap, guys.
I don't think we can move to the next step unless we know we have the property. Right? Nobody's saying we're not, I don't think the council is saying.
You can create a budget.
I don't think the council is saying we're not doing anything about it, but we need to be able to acquire the property.
We're not
So we get to the planning stage and involve everybody as part of that. So.
We're defining it right now. We're saying, we stabilize that property. It would be the demolition. And it would be the naturalization of the shore, of the shore line, because you have a failed retaining wall also.
That would be a multiple step process of discussion. Yes, it is. And it would take multiple steps of planning along with the community.
Not to budget that. I've just outlined.
I think Teresa can, maybe Teresa can repeat,
in identifying.
Teresa can repeat, sorry, there are part of the grant already allows for soft costs. So that will include
figure out a budget
the important
for those two
things
elements.
like taking down the property. Some of that is already going to be.
Am I falling on deaf ears here? There's two elements that I'm suggesting that I believe we could support as a budget, because to the best of my knowledge, there's not a budget that has been associated with that property, much to Mr. Rice's current question. We have an acquisition and we have a development. We have a responsibility once we acquire. Teresa's answered my question, $336,000 to acquire.
Right, but some of the grant also allow for soft costs offsets. And
So
Teresa can get into that.
There's a point that I hear you making, and I just want to say, I can really understand why the thought of the unknown feels completely unacceptable. The conservation and recreation are broad terms. And my dear colleagues, we may differ on, our votes on this particular matter, but I do think generally everyone's heart is in the right place. However, that's not why you vote for us, and it's not what our job is. I think, we can know the cost of stabilizing the shoreline, stabilizing the retaining wall, demolishing the house, regrading the site. And if it's gonna sit like that, then we should and take it upon ourselves immediately to solve the existing problems that are down there in that area already, because obviously I am concerned that those will only be exacerbated by more square footage. So there's a management issue that we have to deal with. The management and operation of the existing facility, if it's expanded, we should assume that those problems are gonna get worse, so we gotta get better at solving those problems. I also think it's reasonable to know what those costs are. I personally have asked for them. I'd like to know. I think we should find out. I will add that the resolutions that my dear colleagues adopted at the last meeting does require that we do certain things. We have to do a site analysis. We have to understand what our insurance and liability requirements are. We have to get policy changes. The kinds of questions that I have asked are exactly yours. I would like to say, if at all possible, and if the council agrees, that we should have them by the next meeting. We should have them before, so that if we are going to acquire this, we also know what costs will be incurred by just stabilizing a vacant site. And is that really what we want down there? And for how long? Again, dear colleagues, know that I am an advocate for planning and design, and there's a time and place for that. I wish it had happened prior to this discussion, because everybody in this room could have been part of that. There's no time, there's no wrong time to do the right thing, and it can happen afterwards. It's not the preferred order in my experience, but it could still happen.
I do think we have.
Everyone that we would like. Inherited obligation, however that manifests itself, but we would like to see an inherited obligation if we pursue this, the part goes through, that this stays passive. That in fact, for our town and for our, it satisfies the master plan. People want to be on the water, they want access to the water, not at the expense of the welfare of the people that live on that street. I mean, I think probably there's a damn good reason there's 2 benches at the end of Grant and 2 benches at the end of, or not even at the end of Hance. Because we have the dock, doesn't multiply our obligation to entertain, not even our town folks. We want to preserve open space. Yeah, who doesn't want it? At what price? And at what cost, both financially and to our well-being and to our property values, quite frankly. Do I want to be taxed to evaluate my own property? I don't think I do. And I think I would like something more pragmatic. And I think we could all appreciate that. I think you must all be fine people. I don't know you all personally. I don't have any numbers with anybody personally. But I'd like the strength of our law supporting what that property can and cannot be for our own peace of mind, because we have a lot of recklessness down there to begin with, and yes, I believe that all of them will buy the property. So that would be my ask for the next meeting, something that we could come here and support and know that this wasn't a handshake. That in fact it's been incorporated in some type of resolution, that this is the intent, that the intent is clear and able to be handed down. And if another administration wants to take over, blow it out of the water, then hopefully they'll have a meeting with that town's block, like you had with DPW and whatnot, and it won't come down to this. Because we'll propagate that information, trust me, outward.
Karen, I think sorry to interrupt. I think we have some rough numbers.
Well,
as part of the due diligence of this, and don't forget, this is grant funding, so a lot of what we have to do is tied to the grants, and they were in, you know, what we adopted at the prior meetings. You know, soft cost different from development costs. Just so you know, so putting a living shoreline in is not a soft cost.
I understand that.
Okay, so I took a step, with, you know, our engineers to look at soft costs, mostly because I had to see how much of the Green Acres grant we were gonna get between the portion that they have in soft costs. I put 5,000 for legal, 5,000 for title work. We have to do a phase one, environmental at 4475, which is phase one, and you might have to do a phase two, depending on when it comes out. We have to do a subsurface evaluation for 11.7, a pre-demolition environmental. We have to demolish the building and remove the bulkhead at 100,000. I put miscellaneous expenses to 25. I had 163, 175, and what I deemed to be eligible soft costs. Out of that, 40,793, or 25% of the total, can be charged to Green Acres. Conservation offered 25,000 towards soft costs. That's 65,798. That to me leaves about 97,381 in potential soft costs left for the borough.
What was the number
Now,
again?
Now,
You have to add
developmental
one thing,
costs-
Teresa, you have to the site has to be investigative for remnants or evidence of historic structures.
That's all part of the, what we just did with the Nigerian. That's all part of what they're gonna do.
Under the environmental?
Yes.
Okay.
Developmental would be different, and you know, I've been doing this a long time, I'd be inclined to think, if the borough was gonna look to do what you say, put in a living shoreline, you know, develop it into open space, they have the potential of funding themselves, but they also have the potential going back to the county to ask for an open space grant to do that. The county is very supportive of, you know, putting additional funding toward the property that they helped purchase. And there would once again be a public hearing, and you would go through that process again. But,
Well, I would assume then that we wouldn't be making application for something that we had in some way made the law of our intent, that this is passive.
yes, and I don't have it in front of me, but there is in this, because we haven't gotten the survey back yet. But there will be a portion of that property that's in the mean high tide line that would be prohibited from being developed in any way, shape, or form, except for, you know, bulkhead or living shoreline or something along those lines. So, particularly knowing what we knew would happen in Sandy.
Sure.
So,
Like I said, all the laws changed to prohibit, you know, or to the best of its ability, what happened there. Their high watermark really makes that property hard to find. Anything. I mean, but great, we don't want anything built on it. Not a playground, not a spray park, not a bathroom.
You'll be able to provide that feedback as we begin the planning process as a parent.
Like I said, what I would respectfully request is some means to address this in 2
Okay.
weeks.
I understand the request. Thank you.
Hi, Kristen Murphy, 56 Marion Road. I just briefly want to say I wholeheartedly agree with everything Karen has said, and I do think it's incredibly important and fiscally responsible for this household to understand what that purchase means for the town fiscally. We were strictly looking at, you know, a very, very rough estimate of a minimum of 100 grand in additional costs beyond what the grants are covering, the costs required, etc. That property, as many people have said, wrecked during Sandy. I'm sure as you start demo and start looking at things, there will be more and more costs. So I think it's fiscally responsible to do that homework before acquiring the land and just hoping for the best. Because once you acquire that land, you now have responsibility for that land. That means insurance costs and everything else. The town now owns that. So the town has an obligation to make it safe at a minimum. We have no idea what those costs are, is what I'm hearing here tonight. Aside from a possibly $100,000 sunk cost. You've done no homework on that, you've done no research on that. So you're buying it and hoping for the best. And so, again, that's just something I wanted to say. My second question though is I'm hearing, I think it was $1.1 million is coming from the county for the purchase of this land. And I'm curious, that's an awful lot of money, I would think, to purchase Green Acres. I understand that it's a big initiative in the county, in the state, country, to have open spaces in Green Acres. I'm all for that. But my question is, what kind of restrictions, or probably more importantly, what kind of say does the county have in that land? Because they put such an investment in it. What is their say in what we do with it, how we develop it? You know, what I'm assuming, you know, you never get anything for nothing. They're giving you over $1 million. What can they just?
Can I just point out, you say they're giving us over $1 million. This is our money. This is our money. We paid taxes to the county. So if we don't take this money to acquire a piece of land, this money's going to Edenton. It's going to Freehold. It's going somewhere else. These are our dollars. I just want to point that out. It's not like they're just giving us something and we're beholden to them for the rest of our life. They're giving us back what we paid out of our pocket.
Okay, and what say do they then have in?
Only that we follow the deed of open space easement, that it's retained as open space. They don't have any say in the development piece of it. And you know, the deed of open space easement is standard, it's modeled after Green Acres. And you know, in any piece of property that we currently purchased, you know, from Green Acres through the county, whether it was Fairhaven Piers or the Normandy, they all have deeds of open space easement.
And I think the property then goes on the county's list of open spaces, but we do have to submit plans to the state for their review. Because it's Green Acres money, they have to, what they're looking for is that it's in keeping with conservation and recreation.
Understand.
Kristen, I have I think this is Green Acres, what can be built. I sent it to Peter last week. If you need it, email me tomorrow. I can get it out.
Right on the Green Acres.
If anybody needs that, just let us know.
The Green Acres, maybe I'm confused. Green Acres grant is separate from the Monmouth County grant,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
So that,
Yes.
and then I just. About the. Oh, so my question is, so this is, you know, to your point, this is our money that we've spent and, you know, we're basically getting it back to the property. But, is this
Which
money?
advantage of the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fine. Is that money only available to us if, for the purchase of this specific piece of property?
Yes.
It does not work to enhance all the open spaces we currently have with massive amounts of problems and drainage issues and danger, you know, whatever, that none of that money can do that.
But if we could secure a different grant. for that.
Exactly, that was gonna be
It's
my
a
question.
fund.
Is there not a way to
Yes.
secure funding to at least
Yes.
fix the current properties that we own and the Green Acres we own and develop before adding on yet more property that we can't maintain?
We're consistently doing that. Just recently, we applied for a grant to put the living shoreline in right down the street at the other park, at the Normandy. We're constantly looking for grants. This year I started a grant committee. It's the first time the borough's ever had one. Their sole job is to identify grants and apply on behalf of the borough of Fairhaven. So absolutely, yeah, and we recognize those issues. Absolutely, you know, it's how many tons of sediment did we take out of our
57.
57 times.
Yeah.
15,000 pounds.
out of our stormwater catch basin? So I mean, we understand the
Costs
issues.
all this money to maintain, and so I think again, just from a fiscal perspective, it's needs to be considered what those additional costs are gonna be to the town to now maintain yet another piece of property. As you're saying, you recognize there are in other parts of the town and you're trying to apply for grants, you're just compounding that problem, in my opinion.
I mean, our finance committee goes over these regularly, and that's a discussion we have. I think I've made it pretty clear when I took over as mayor that it was important to me to be careful with where we spend our dollars, and I think I've shown that I do that all the time. In fact, I think I hear too often, Josh, you gotta loosen up a little bit and let's do something here. So, I don't move quickly. And it may seem like that to the people in the air, but I mean, we've been talking about this in executive session for a while, partially because a lot of it was negotiation. Yeah.
Can I make a point? Karen said something really important earlier, and something that I talked to Peter about today was the passive nature of the park. And to your point about taking care of the property, the mayor just mentioned the finance committee, Malini is a member, Drew, who just stepped out, is a member, I'm a member. And I don't believe we'll need to hire additional people or buy new lawnmowers if we go with this passive concept. I think we have enough DPW employees. I don't think we need to add another person or another pension. And I don't think we need any additional lawnmowers. If we make a living shoreline, we make it a passive property, and we need to take care of it. Right now, it's sort of taken care of, but it's not our property. Somebody's in there mowing it. I don't think we're gonna incur a significant amount of maintenance increase as a result of acquiring this particular piece of property. It will be akin to what we have over at the Normandy. So
That's assuming it's a passive park, and I think
That's-
that's what we circle back.
yeah, that's also my,
To the ordinance that we talked about
Yeah.
before, somebody brought up an ordinance and maybe, could we have something in writing?
yeah,
You've agreed splash park, everybody says no splash park.
Yeah.
Can we have a couple things in writing? Could we have?
Yeah.
I think we're not.
I think that's-
We've all talked about the plan, but what could you guys put in writing for us that we can all?
Chris is ready to say that. Personally, I would be uncomfortable with that. I would.
Uncomfortable saying that you don't want a splash park? You
No,
don't-
I'll tell you right now, I don't want to. On the record, I'll put in an email, splash parks out.
But we can put that in an ordinance.
But where I get uncomfortable is using the word passive, because I don't know exactly what that means. I literally don't know what it means. And if,
Plus, we're still uncertain as well. That's why maybe if we could start putting examples together, this is why I think somebody said already, do we have to move forward tonight? Because we could put things like a splash park, roller skating or bathrooms, whatever. This is the no list. This is the list that we're okay. Could we put something together where I think that would get a lot of people in this room really in a good place. A lot of us are for buying the property. We want to see numbers and we want to see a plan. And I don't really think, if you asked your children that on a school project, what would you say? I don't understand how in this day and age we can move forward without a project plan or a budget. Transparency. You want to be then we're real, I think we're a good group of people where we want to move forward, but we're all starting to say the same thing. And I think if we don't have something to move you guys forward, we need to help you, and that's by writing something up. And I think writing what we won't do versus what we will do, because nobody knows what will be done, but let's say no to the spray park. Let's say no to turning it into a spray park.
Just so we're clear here, we don't own this property right now. If we don't get past this stage, there
But
is no.
can you put something in writing that if you buy this property, it will not turn into a splash park? Can you put that together?
No, because we don't even own the property yet, so we can't contemplate any sort of development of a project that we don't own. The buyer could say tomorrow, the buyer could say to.
21 said it was a passive park. How did it turn into an active park 2 years later?
I'm prepared to.
what does
say
that mean, an active park?
Active means it can create recreational facilities.
Recreation.
Passive park means basically anything that could wash into the shore that will be absorbed naturally by the water. That's a passive park.
The Normandy is passive. Josh, the stuff you're talking about will draw traffic.
What stuff I'm talking?
Anything.
Anything else?
It's anything. Wait, guys, oh, come on, we're just throwing out words here. What have I said? What am I talking
Mayor,
about?
hold on one second. If you're gonna speak, please, because Allison's trying to take down the
Mrs. Munger.
Can I just speak for 1 minute? My name is Hillary Mullen. I live on
I didn't get your name, I'm sorry.
Hillary Mullen. I live at 65 Normandy Avenue. I've been there for 35 years. I've been the recipient of that beautiful Normandy Park. It's been fabulous. It is totally different
than Fairhaven Road. Has a smaller street. It is quote, a passive park. Yet I see Fairhaven families coming down with their coffee, with their children, playing lacrosse, playing soccer, using it for photographs, just hanging out. It's really wonderful. And what I'm hearing is that you're acquiring the property, we're acquiring the property. But you have a problem at the end of the street that we're trying to spend 45 minutes on. And if you are having a problem with that, why are we having this other property when we can't even get that under control? It seems that would be difficult to add to that. As far as a passive park is concerned there, I would say do the same thing as Normandy. It's a wonderful place to be, but you still have the issue of the people speeding down the street, parking and all of that, which I know I'm reiterating, but I just wanted to give my sense.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Okay, I've been waiting. Pat
Your name and address.
Drummond, 75 Fairhaven Road. I lived on Fairhaven Road there in the same house for 39 years. So I've seen how things have changed. The big problem for me is maybe that would be great to have a passive park. In my impression would be grass and a couple of benches. That would be great. The problem is there's more and more traffic down on Fairhaven Road. It can't take it anymore. People are speeding all the time down Fairhaven Road, from River Road down towards the dock. I don't know if it's people that live there, but people are speeding. I say a Hail Mary when I'm backing out of my driveway because I can't see because everyone's parked on the street. It's really dangerous, and that's part of the problem. That's all I have to say, because I really care about the humanity that's living on that street. It's already changed the way we live. When I moved there 39 years ago, everybody had one car, maybe two. Now people have 3 and 4 cars, and they can't fit them on their driveway, so they park in the street. So there's cars parked in the street all the time. And then you try to back out of your driveway, you can't see because all the big giant cars are on the street. So you have to say, okay, is this my time to get hit? You have to back out sometime. That's all I have to say.
What? Yeah, Rachel Stellar, 7 Hackers Lane. I just wanted to say, I think a lot of us have touched on it, but I've been to a lot of town council meetings over the past 15 years, who knows? And I've sat in on meetings where significant amounts of residents have attended opposing the Dunkin' Donuts in the town. And at the end of the day, we're essentially told that it didn't matter what we thought about bringing Dunkin' Donuts to town because the governing body's hands were tied based on previous laws that had been enacted. So while you 7 might have the best intentions right now in mind, listen to our feedback and design a park that makes sense for our neighborhood. Who's to say that in 4 years we aren't back here because the new governing body is voting to add parking spaces or something like a city park and whatnot. So I think from what a few people have said, I think it's really important to, along with whatever the Monmouth County parks are saying that we're allowed to do with the park, to have a set of guidelines of what we will never do with the park. And then one other just sidebar is, I agree with everything with traffic, and a major problem also in the neighborhood is the sidewalks not being repaired. And so you can't even bike along the sidewalks. So they're out in the street walking because we can't use our sidewalks.
I'll let you finish, just jump in. That's part of the micro projects, Rachel, that are going on right now. Those will be fixed imminently. I don't know if they're starting.
Micro projects start beginning of November, but it depends. But the micro projects is 42 sub projects that starts the first week of November.
Can you make my road not fun? Can you add it? Thank you.
Hi, Susan Sorensen, 34 Clay Street.
Susan?
Hi, guys. When they bought the Normandy, I was adamantly against it, because I lived up the street. Traffic was an issue. And I have to tell you, as with Hillary, I have enjoyed that park, so as many families in this town, and I was completely and totally wrong. But one of the things that I did come to the meeting about was the fact that back then, was because of the traffic, because of the congestion, because of the parking. And the town made concessions. And what the town ended up doing is I finally, after 12 years of arguing and begging and pleading to have a four-way stop, at my corner, I got a four-way stop. So maybe there's some things that we can do, not only to, I do agree that a passive pump would be the best thing, but maybe at the top of Clay Street where Fairhaven Road is, people who live there might not like this, but put a stop sign there. I know they love it. Oh, yeah, I mean, like, make it. Yeah, okay, so put a stop sign. A lot of people here like that idea, but that's one of the things that we
That's
can.
the guns?
Yeah, so like do is, first of all, ironically, at the top of Clay Street onto Fairhaven Road is no stop sign, which is really weird as well.
Right.
To T Street, so a stop sign there, and then put a stop sign on Fairhaven Road, and another thing is stop allowing for parking on both sides of Fairhaven Road, from Clay Street to the dock.
But that's not the case, because Melissa, I already petitioned to have no parking on my side of the street. I have a child that has an incurable medical illness. And because of the way the parking is, the street starts very wide and then narrows greatly down to the dock. So from River Lawn.
Yeah.
Down to Fairwaters, I've already had Chief already put no parking on my side of the street because an ambulance could not get to my house or Beth's house. So we've already done that, but what that then does is totally jams up the opposite side of the street. So then the opposite side of Fairhaven Road is like a nightmare because now there's no parking from River Lawn down to Fairwaters. So you guys have already kind of worked with us on that, but I do agree that something has to happen because it gets to the point where you can't turn, you can't go around the corner, you know what I mean? Like, you can't get out of your drive.
I think it's something we want to solve. It is. I just want to point out, no parking means no parking for everyone. Okay.
But a traffic traffic and circulation impact analysis should really be part of how we go into what is gonna happen, or if something should happen down there. It's obviously a very charming neighborhood and there are a lot of issues. Maybe this is the time we take up all of them and look at it comprehensively.
I don't think the parking piece necessarily has to wait for the planning phase of.
Right.
Personally, I think we can address it immediately. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's the planning. It's the same thing. It's all.
So
I'm saying
anyway.
park in the street can be two separate things.
We have control.
That's okay, how dare you? So anyway, I just wanted to say, I was very much against the park at the end of Normandy. And after listening to all different sides, I became open to it, and now I could not be happier. But there were concessions that were made on both sides, and I'm just saying, please be open to some of those options. And I do think that once it's in, you're all gonna love it.
Suzanne, was one of those contingencies labeling it as a park?
Yes, absolutely. Well, as always.
It is a different
It's a different-
designation. It's Blue Acres money. The Blue Acres money dictates that it has to be a passive.
But there wasn't there Blue Acres and Green Acres at
Green Acres should be reapplied to Blue Acres, which was a higher.
Right, see, it was about.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was
funded on the blue.
Yeah,
That's why it's passive.
yeah, so what we
get
got.
blue money?
Yeah,
Well,
well.
why can't we get blue money?
Or
Give us the money.
Because it's not hurting you
Is
down.
green money dictating that it has to not be passive?
No.
Well, then,
I think you'd satisfy us all if you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know exactly what passive means, but that's a discussion we'll. Is anyone else for the public comment
On agenda.
on agenda items only? Allison?
Mrs. Dickinson.
Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. Just a little history. To address the fellow who said that this was sprung on us, and when he had asked for information on the park or on the property, a long time ago that it was told that nothing was happening. I also asked when I had heard rumors, and I was also told nothing's happening. We can't tell you anything because it will prejudice perhaps what we'd have to pay for it. That was what I was told. So and then shortly after that, the owners of the property listed it on the market for sale for over $2 million. It was on the market for about a week and it was withdrawn. And that's when we found that the town was going after it.
Ruth, I don't think that timeline is accurate. It was on the market for months.
No, not technically on the multiple listing system. Anyhow, you could ask Derek Debris about that. But a passive park as what we've got on DeNormandy was simply you could not play baseball. You couldn't do things like that there, which were openly recreational. And that's what at that time passive meant. I agree with the people on Fairhaven Road and on DeNormandy that there's a horrendous amount of traffic for streets that were formulated in the early 1900s. I don't know what to tell you really, but if it's going to truly be a passive park, it's not a bad thing. But along with Tracy, something that Tracy had said a meeting or so ago, we haven't taken care of the things we already have. We've owned Schwenker's Pond for a couple of years, and there was a tree hanging into it, and the tree is still hanging into it. Now, how hard is it to get out there and get that tree? Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's doing the housekeeping and maintenance. And when DPW goes out to do something like that, then our garbage collection and our recycling and our brush collection suffers because they're spread too thin. I think at this point, and another thing, you said nobody's going to pay $1.7 million for waterfront. Let me tell you, if they're paying $1.5 million for a Cape Cod on a 50 by 150 lot in the center of town, you can bet that somebody's going to buy it for over $2 million on the waterfront, even if they have to do a lot of remediation and tear down and things like that. Waterfront is prime. And it's still selling. Fairhaven is selling. The Eastern Monmouth County shore towns are selling. And you cannot say that they could not sell that for over $2 million.
Thank you, Ruth.
Can I ask the question about the?
Ruth?
No.
Who was that?
Ruth,
Please,
please.
please.
Can we just get through these and then you can ask Allison?
That's what nobody else.
Okay, no, Tracy, go
Oh,
ahead.
thank you. I have a question for all y'all. The notion of acquiring a property at the end of Fairhaven Road, which is a very iconic neighborhood. It's, in my opinion, it's the terminus of Main to Main. It makes up the identity of Fairhaven in many ways. It has to be done very, 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 very carefully. And it's like trying to thread a needle in terms of planning and design. It's like threading a needle. How do you create a lovely destination that doesn't impact or degrade quality of life for the folks that live there, but offers an expanded quality of life for the rest of the community? And I think that's the design challenge. I think there's a planning piece that we could have gotten into sooner. We didn't. I hope we get to that right away. I'm outnumbered, and I know this council wants to do this. So a question I have for you guys: if there was some universe where we could say nobody drives to this passive park, that there's
People don't.
There's a
Every town drives there.
So
Ride their bikes, they walk.
they ride their bikes, they walk, it's scooter, not at 30 miles an hour. If
Right, you're walking through town. You know what I mean?
So when you think about it as a soft green destination that's quiet and passive, that people get there without a car, does that reduce the sense of alarm or concern?
Passive
But I also think at low tide, people come to crab and they're 10 feet of beach and they put a beach chair and an umbrella and they're cooler. It's 10 feet of really crappy, rocky beach and they have literally a beach chair and umbrella.
They're camping out.
So now you're gonna give them 200 feet of waterfront. What's gonna make them not sit there for 10 hours between the hours of 8 AM and 9 PM? That's our concern, because it is not town people, I live in Normandy all the time. I walk my dog there, I go down and look at the water, they had camps there this summer. It was wonderful to see the little kids go down and look for, marine science and all of that. Like, none of that is what we're upset about, none of that. It's people that do not respect our town, are not from our town, and use it as a destination to sit there all day long.
Well, if we acquire it with
That's our
these,
biggest complaint.
if we acquire it with these funds, those folks are allowed to come. But we have to devise management and operational tools, levers to some extent manage it. And that is also another very tricky.
Which is why everybody's asking for more of a plan.
Gotcha.
More of a
I
plan.
wanted to ask about the bikes versus cars.
Or verbiage that would protect.
Yeah,
what we're required. Do you know speaking?
I get it.
We haven't even passed the restrictions on the dock. Really, you know what I mean? We haven't limited that. So now it's like a free for all on the dock, and we're gonna give you all of this extra space to squat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if we can really, I mean, I guess we just need to see some steps in the right direction, because so far we haven't seen.
They're coming there for the
Yeah.
dock though, to crab and fish. That's why we're doing the restrictions.
Okay.
So that we can tell them if they wanna go do that, there's probably better places to do it. And if they wanna start
Right,
a
and
beach,
then-
they're probably better off going to a beach than, like you said, a rocky area on the Navasink River with jellyfish in it. You know.
You're giving more space to it now.
Our beaches.
Yeah.
Like, we're welcoming more of that, we haven't evolved it yet on the dock.
Yeah.
Like, the difference between
It's Kristen Murphy.
and the Normandy, these other parts, we already have a depression that is bringing in so many people, and it's unhealthy and unsafe, and all of the things we've discussed. That's already existing there. You're compounding that. You're saying, we're gonna make that bigger, but we haven't solved the problem yet. We're gonna just make it bigger, and people can camp out there and do everything they want. Like, that's the concern. We already have.
We understand the concern. We do. We understand it. We haven't said we don't. We're confident that we can fix it. We're confident we can.
Stated nothing that says you're going to fix it or any restriction.
Well, I would totally disagree with that.
disagree with that as well.
I would totally disagree with that. We tonight, and we did it the last meeting as well. Quite truthfully, a lot of people in this room, I've had side conversations on these topics. These topics themselves, I've exchanged pictures, I've told them that it bothers me as well, I've made it known, and these weren't the first two meetings I brought this up. I brought this up months ago that I wanted to do this. So the implication that like, I'm sorry that it's never been done before, but we're doing it now, that's kind of the whole.
Anything about it never being done before.
But you're saying that there's no action, we're literally, the definition of action is showing what we're doing tonight, which is there's an ordinance that was put together by our borough attorney to address the issue. We sat here and discussed it tonight. We discussed making it more restrictive. And I even said it's the first step of potentially multiple steps to intervene on the issue.
I guess that's all we're asking for, is the details on the.
That's what we're trying to deliver.
That's
That's
what
what
we
we're trying to
committed to,
deliver.
right? That's when we talked about crabbing and fishing, we committed to more restrictive measures. So we were gonna take that away, we're gonna work it out. We said that at the beginning, that ties right into what we're talking about here. So there are levers we can pull, there are parking levers we can pull, we can get restrictive in certain ways. And I think that's exactly what was said at the beginning of the
Why
conversation.
can't we put in writing?
Yeah.
Before we make this.
We don't.
We don't own the property. It's not our property.
Rich Rayfield, 27 Fairhaven Road. I think, first of all, I want to emphasize with the point that this is not a neighborhood park, the new property. I mean, it is adjacent to a very public statewide park, really. So it does compound the problem. To make any analogies, park on the Normandy or whatever, it's totally different. It's not a neighborhood park. Can you do a resolution of intent of some of the things that have been said tonight, such as to make it a passive park, and the final, it is a resolution, it's not binding, it's not an ordinance. And some other things that we've agreed upon tonight, it seems like we have general agreement on certain things that the traffic down Fairhaven Road is scary, it's really, it's a life and death issue, really. And we said all the time, we all talk about it, speeding down the streets, when of these little kids are gonna come out, forget about the scooters, I mean, just someone, darting out into the street, it's really, really scary, so we are just compounding that problem here. So I think there are a lot of great ideas, whether it's stop signs, whether it's speed bump, whatever. There's a lot of things that need to be done, but I think maybe some resolution of intent to address these issues would be really helpful.
Yeah, I understand where you're going. Those that know me, I'm pretty against resolutions that don't actually intervene in any actual way. But I understand what you're looking for.
Can I offer
But
something?
you never have a forum like this, a whole neighborhood, it's very rare, so. I mean,
Well, it's not that rare in Fairhaven to have a whole neighborhood. It's been rare in my neighborhood, but it's definitely not a rare thing. I don't see any reason to put out a resolution that's not binding in any way. I think it's words in the air. It doesn't.
But we need to
accomplish
go tonight, commit to the planning initiative that would answer these questions and put some of these issues to bed. We can commit to that if this body agrees, whether it should happen before or after, it's irrelevant now, but if that's something we feel is appropriate and it would identify and frame these kinds of concerns and give us a way to really move forward the farm idea, but do it in a way that honors the community and serves the neighborhood, or reverse, honors the neighborhood and serves the whole community. Look, I mean, in my opinion, we have to do it. I think it's responsive to most, if not all, of the kinds of comments that we're getting from our friends and neighbors. They
So,
wanna-
so I mean, there seems to be a reluctance.
Name and address.
Peter Gotch, 268. A reluctance to even say passive, like maybe. if
I
they
still don't know what that
say-
means, so that's why I'm having a hard time committing, so that you come in 4 months from now and say, you said passive.
The Normandy is passive.
I understand
There are
that.
no bathrooms.
I
A
understand.
park like the Normandy at 21 Fair Road, that would be passive. This, I know we're not gonna pass any ordinances here, but everything's on record, the minutes are taken. So, I mean, I would ask each one of you, just speak. Like, would you agree to make 21 Fairhaven Road a beautiful pastoral active park like the Normandy? I mean, that's the question.
I would not agree to that
Can I
in
just
this moment,
comment one thing?
but I also want to tell you, I'm not thinking of this active crazy park. I think there's balance in there, and I don't know what passive means. I don't know, and I'm not saying we're gonna do it. I don't know if we had a small playground there. Is that passive?
No.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's what's best for the entire town. What's that?
Let's define what passive is.
Maybe that's something that we will do in the planning process, but we're not in the planning process. Right now, we're acquiring the property.
Just mention like,
We're
when
acquiring the property right now. That's all.
we
we're
had
doing.
2 sessions for the entire community, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That Councilman Borough
Yes.
conducted to redesign the police station almost from, to a very different thing than he was just a year ago. In addition to that, there were multiple discussions that I know that were had with individual community members throughout before those open sessions and the later sessions. The issue I see here is that when we get to that planning stage, we need the whole community to be invited.
Well, the whole community is invited right now.
No.
This is a representation of one neighborhood.
And the council serves 6,000 residents.
But this is,
So-
this is the neighborhood that is most affected.
Of course.
Right, which should.
It's the neighborhood that's
And it will
most
be,
right now.
it will be
It's the most
consulted,
affected, Josh.
just like it was done for the police station, and I think people who live in that area really appreciate the way things were done this year. And the years before, there were a lot of discussions with the neighborhood, but I think to commit the council to pass a resolution when
I'm not
the
saying-
rest of the
just-
residents of Fairhaven have not been heard or participated in the discussion is not really something that serves Fairhaven. So we really need to, I think, separate between what we're trying to do, which is take advantage of these grants. I don't think anyone would say that spending $450,000 or $500,000 on a property worth at least 1.8 million is fiscally is really responsible action by this council, which I think if nothing else has been very fiscally responsible throughout this year and has shown that we can really be very thoughtful in the way we're spending the taxpayer funds. The issue of the planning will be thoroughly done, but it needs to involve everyone.
Okay, but.
And we need, that's a matter of fairness comparing that. Because the open land that the master plan says that, you know, we should be following that path of finding as much open land as we can, including waterfront properties, is really coming from servicing those 6,000 residents.
So should a broader meeting happen before you?
It's been done a few years ago, but it's included the whole country.
Before you go on with the acquisition of the property, because you bring up a good point. Maybe there's other people that should.
That's the planning stage. We need to first look at the property. We don't.
Well,
We're saying don't have to, let's tell everybody about it.
Land acquisition is opportunistic.
No, you can't.
All right, let's.
I think I can shed a little light. The first time that the community was notified that a public park was going to be purchased to be on that land, or the land was being purchased to be a public park, was a notification we all got in 2021. It was a public notice, and it said to create a passive park. I'm sorry, Mary Helpin, that you don't know what a passive park is, but that is what was told to the entire community of Fairhaven, all 6,000 residents, given a public notice that we were going to create a passive park if it was purchased on 21 Fairhaven Road. That sat dormant for as well as the entire 6,000 residents of this town knew for 2 years. Last week, or the 10th, was the first time 21 Fairhaven Road ever was on the agenda again. And when it was on the agenda, it was to approve those grants that now made it an active park. So the entire community of the 6,000 people that you say we should all have to concern this to, never got the notice that it went from a passive to an active park. No one knows that. Now they do, I hope. But I don't know how you possibly vote on this tonight when the entire community doesn't even know it. Everyone was
make it
knew it was gonna be a passive park.
Simply, but did they make it an active park, or is it simply saying that the grant says that they should be used for open space of conservancy?
But when you shared it with
You're
the
not
6,000
making it
people,
an
it
active
said
park.
it was a passive park 2 years ago.
Right, but we're not making it an active park, it simply says the intent is for.
But there's always bad opportunity for it to become active, and we don't know what future councils will do with that. You may all sit here and tell us that your intentions are for it to be what we all think it could be like. In 20 years, we don't know what the council's gonna want to do with that park. And if we don't get the agenda items, we won't know what they're being passed in this room, or probably a much beautiful more room, but we won't get that agenda. So how do we know? So we're just trying to protect our historic neighborhood, our beautiful Fairhaven Road. And I think I can speak for everyone in this room, except for Mr. Rice, who does not want to park at all, that we would be okay with a passive park, but an active park is bringing more attention to our neighborhood, where we would just prefer that our neighbors, and I live there, I'm the house adjacent to this park. I am strictly the only person who is solely affected with my property value plummeting if it becomes an active park, because I have no boundaries anymore. But I'm not speaking on behalf of myself right now, I'm speaking on behalf of the town. I see people who go to that dock all the time on their bikes. I see people who live across town ride their bikes down. They do come. People who live in town walk, ride bikes. It is a natural destination for people in town. If we have a passive park, they will thoroughly enjoy the passive park as well. If it's an active park, then the people who are coming out of town that already know about our dock are gonna have another reason to say, we can stay here all day and we can entertain our kids on this stuff. And the streets will be filled with cars from out of towners. Assumption, but it's one I don't want to take a risk on. And I don't want this to be voted in and then have it open-ended that that could happen.
We want more information where to vote. I think that's.
Right now, we're just talking about acquiring a piece of property.
With an active,
You're talking about the planning process, we're talking about the acquisition of land. That's what we're talking about. Yes, sir.
Just a simple question, very simple, I mean, this is not already secretary. Simple question, so what you're saying is that you guys are prepared to vote tonight on this?
Still has to be-
Introduction of ordinance.
Introduction, there's still another meeting to actually acquire.
And there's steps, I mean, we have to go through all our due diligence, all our environmentals, I mean, obviously, the property came back that there were environmental considerations that would not be purchased. You know, that's one of the reasons why the county and 3 acres make us go through the due diligence. It's in the borough, we do it anyway, and if we had to, but we are compelled to do it. So there are other steps besides it, but they.
Understand, let me finish my question. So you are going to vote tonight to introduce this purchase?
Yes.
Without offering us anything at all that says what this purchase is going to be about?
It's gonna be a park, sir.
Well.
But there's always one, it's so big.
You're right, it hasn't been designed yet.
Please let me.
We've been here for 3 hours talking about.
Where does it say that it is going to be a park?
Oh, we're not gonna, sir, respectfully, I'm not gonna get into the same question and answer.
So you're saying the festival without even specifying that it's going to be a park, is that a correct statement?
It has.
It has to be.
It has to be a park. It has to be a park.
Because of the funding.
I don't like that.
Grants on information.
Is there anything, can we move along? I don't wanna, if anyone has anything, I don't wanna move on, but otherwise I'd like to move along on the agenda at this point. If anyone else has a public comment on agenda items only?
So then to go on record, you guys can move forward with the vote to possibly acquire land and disregard all of our views, but we're trying to get anything done that will be done in a planning stage and put it in
We're
the stage of acquisition.
we're
I'm just gonna go on record.
we're gonna follow what's in our master plan, right? And go over 2 years of deliberation and discussion and thoughtfulness in whether or not this is a good move for the borough of Fairhaven. For the entire borough, for 6,000 residents, is this piece of property at this price the right acquisition for our town? And I can't tell you because we haven't voted yet. We'll find out, but there's nothing else, you know, that I can add to that question. It's acquisition of land.
I think we could each offer something to these residents they care about their neighborhood, and that's what brought them out here tonight. And I can only speak for myself, but I would not want to see anything happen that will compromise the quality of life that you have grown to take, you take care of your homes and your neighborhood the same way we should too. My personal commitment would be to begin planning work that would engage the community in the processes that would reassure you. I'm only one person here, but I do believe that is what's the intent with my fellow council people. I do believe that.
So you're on the record, so maybe if everyone else got on the record.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And then you feel Takeda?
We have to wait for the vote.
I think we've all got.
Guys, just 1 second. I want to point out respectfully, please don't shout out, let the process play out. If you have a question, please just put your hand up. I see you, Rachel, let Councilman Rodriguez speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to address the question, which is, we're voting to introduce an ordinance so we can have a hearing. I know we've heard a lot of things tonight and a lot of valuable feedback about what is it gonna cost us? How is it gonna be designed? What are the options, and can we put things in ink that limit us or prohibit us or all of that? I think it's fantastic, actually. I think this is the way democracy is supposed to work. That's why you voted all of these people in up here. So are we voting tonight to buy the thing? No, we're voting to put an ordinance in place to be introduced so we can have a hearing. So then we can decide, do we want to do it? So I think there's maybe a gap because people aren't coming to a lot of meetings, or they're not reading things, or we're not telling you in the right way that things are going to happen. But there's a process we go through, which is well laid out, it's well defined, we didn't invent it, but this is the first step in the journey. We're not even close to the finish line, and I hope everyone in this room is part of that as we get closer to it. So I think this is the first step in the journey. You guys know where I am in terms of what I think should be down there. I think it's clear, but I don't want a spray park, and I know that the mayor doesn't want a spray park or a water park or whatever. I do think we're gonna come, and I trust everybody who's up here, who's gonna be here next year and the year after, are gonna make great decisions with consultation of all of our residents in town. So I don't know that I agree with everything. I agree with a lot of what Tracy's saying. Do I agree with everything? No. But we're gonna make great decisions up here because you guys are gonna guide us, and the master plan's gonna guide us, and it will be rewritten in 3 years because it happens every 10 years, the master plan. So that's on a schedule, just like everything else on this government, and it just follows a process, and a lot of this stuff takes time. It might take years for this to play out.
May I say something? I'm one of the people, one of the many people who never even knew about this until this Sunday it was in the paper. I had no idea, and I'm furious because I had no idea. Nobody told me. Nobody said anything. It was not published or anything. So I think, what's the big deal of waiting even 2 weeks?
Well,
Why vote tonight? Most of
we
the
can
people
wait 6 months.
Even know about it.
We can wait 6 months, but what I'll say is, 5 years ago, and Councilwoman Sorensen in the back was there when John Peters introduced the concept in a public forum for all of us to hear 5 years ago. So this isn't new. This is just finally coming to a head, and a lot of people are hearing about it.
And you know a lot of people.
Understood, and I respect that.
Tonight, if half the people here never even knew about it till Sunday.
There's 5,900 people in this town that probably haven't paid attention to any of the things that we do in the town either.
Who's heard about the leaf and brush ordinance that we were putting together? I mean, it's half the room, but we do a lot of things that don't get out there, and I'll say again, I put it in every tax letter I sent out. It's gone in every focus article. You know,
It's on our weekly social media.
it's on our social media. Yep.
The website.
Hi, Kate Laufer-Bornstein. I lived in Fairhaven since I was 8 years old. So I have a pretty unique perspective of the old and the new. I guess I have a couple of questions. I'm not gonna belabor the point. Clearly, you don't want, covenant restrictions in place on the space. You made that clear. It sounds like from hearing you talk, Drew, you owned the project. Is somebody going to be owning this project? And has that person been identified on your council?
The answer to your question is, no one has been identified, but I would guess, yes, someone's gonna be owning this project.
Okay. And does the community have any input in that person?
And who we select as the person, well, that would be a mayor appointment, but if I received strong feedback, I would certainly consider.
Thank you. My other question is, and I know we've danced around it a little bit and talked about traffic at length. Has there been a traffic study or will there be a traffic study? I know that's something that was critical to my parents' home, their street on Grange, when deciding what to do at the end of that street. Has there been and will there be one on our road?
I would
Is
argue
Rich
that
here?
that's an
Well, maybe
appropriate
that's-
study, because it's a circulation impact analysis.
If it's
And that-
appropriate, then it's a step we would take. Yeah, I just don't know
Well,
from an engineering standpoint.
And
right?
to the point, I mean, I guess I'm not vast, and the only other time I've come was probably 6 years ago to fight for the sidewalk to be repaired. But it does also impact what happens in the street, and I do think that this all works together.
Yeah.
So, I think for a reasonable bunch of people, as are you, and we're just looking to work alongside each other and do this in a way that's safe for ourselves, our children, and our future.
I don't think there's, I just want to make it clear, I don't think there's anyone up here that disagrees with that. I think everyone's on the same page with that. The only point that I slightly disagree with is putting something in writing now that I'm not sure exactly what it is yet. And for me to just tell you, yeah, it's a passive park, and then it's a year later and we put a component in that you don't find passive, I don't wanna overpromise and under deliver.
But
That's
it's
what it's
a
coming
living
down to.
document, as you said, it is a
Yes.
living document.
Correct.
And times change as we learned in 2020, and I think, again, to the point of being reasonable, we can adapt and adjust and evolve together. But just to satisfy, the fear in this room, and I mean, this is what you want as a mayor and the council, a group of passionate individuals who care so much about the historic and the center of the town. I think that's all we're asking for. And I hope to say that in the most respectful way.
What I see here tonight is a bunch of residents that love the street they live on. At the end of the day, that's what I see. You're passionate about your street, and you recognize there's some current issues, and you don't want them to get bigger. So I get it.
Thank you. If you don't, Rachel's telling us that, if you don't buy the property, in your opinion, and I'm just wondering if maybe this is our best option, like, could an individual buy the property and go on that land as it stands?
Absolutely.
Still the house.
100%.
I wish we had your paint on it.
The marina could buy the property. The marina could buy the property. They could claim builder's remedy.
No, they can't. They claim builder's remedy. We have an affordable housing plan that has been approved, and we are not vulnerable to a builder's remedy. Period.
That's not true.
We don't know that for sure.
That's
It
not
has to
true.
be there.
It's not true. It can be challenged in the
Don't know
state.
that for sure.
Yes.
Brian Wilson, 19 Riverwalk Drive. So I happened to walk Fairhaven Road Sunday, and there's a lot of people that aren't here that it's pretty much unanimous, the feedback that I heard on people's doorsteps. I think it's all been covered. But I have a question for the borough attorney. Is there a way for a governing body to designate land as like a land bank or wetlands? Or is it possible to build land to that standard so it can't be turned into a parking lot later?
Well, no, there's gonna be a deep, we have the restrictions based on the deed easement. We can send it to you. And it clearly lays out what can be built there and the restrictions on the land.
I mean, could a future governing body or this governing body designate a specific property as wetlands or something similar?
Wetlands is an NJDEP designation, sir.
Okay, so that's a state.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything that a governing body can do to designate it something similar to a wetlands where it's very restricted?
Couldn't be developed.
Well, it's in the riparian zone.
I don't believe so. I mean, remember, anything that we do would have to be compliant with the state and, county, and federal. For the sake of, argument. But, there's things that are in place and that are tied to the funding that we're receiving, the easements that will be signed, at the time, after we purchase the property, that will restrict what can be built and what's allowed on the property. Remember, it's also next to, a huge body of water. So there's going to be just environmental restrictions that don't allow for concrete to be, 10 feet away from, the shoreline. So there's other things that are, restrictive in just where the property is set. We'll do everything in our power to make sure that it complies with all state and local laws. And as far as, restrictions as to what can be built there, I think that's already said in, land use law. Thank you.
Karen, so to that question, have we consulted our engineers in terms of what could be built on our property to have a trigger a variance? They don't have to design anything, what's the line, what's the ability of that lot, so what do you contract? What's buying in, for instance, private development could be what? Have we had any consultation with TNM on?
TNM are not our engineers, but we have looked at it as far as, the mean high tide water, markings. But there is buildable space on that lot if a private person did want to purchase it.
Do you know what that looks like? Maybe do you know?
I don't have the dimensions, I don't have the meets and bounds in front of me, Karen, as far as that goes. I couldn't say it's restricted to, this by this.
I think it would be worth knowing our attorney from the zoning perspective, what doesn't trigger in order to a variance there, because once we get to a variance, we have governing bodies to enforce, deny or turn down something that was not contributing.
You're saying if we
It's
didn't
not
purchase the
for
property,
sale.
what a potential buyer of the property, what they can
What
do?
is the property currently allow?
Had to talk to the zoning board attorney.
Well, it's zoned for single family
Yeah.
residential.
You know what ours
I feel that it's worth.
I'm gonna guess.
Mark 15, but I'm
You know, what are we talking about? I mean, if in fact, by the time all current standards are met, that you know, you don't have your 9-foot ceiling, you don't have any livable space by definition, because the road is on the ground level.
So if it's an R15,
What is that putting in there?
I don't know
What's
this-
the design, I'm saying, what's the volume, what's the siding, what's the setback now?
Yeah, it's in table C on the zoning board requirements. I don't know if it's an R15 or R20, but the exact limitations with what they would have to build as per the planning board is outlined there. So like all the side yard
I'm
setbacks.
saying I would need our engineer or our, you know, I'm not gonna be able to determine that. But I think that it's worth it to identify, what if we left it in play for private development? What does that look like?
Right.
What does it look like before it creates a variance need? Like I said, then therefore, we do have for the investment that, you know, after the investment, just those rules, those language are terrible.
Respectfully, I don't think this is a relevant conversation right now. I just
No,
don't,
it's
I don't think wondering what a private ownership home would look like on a site has relevance with whether we're gonna acquire the property and whether that's under the best interest of the borough of Fairhaven.
But that, with all due respect, just brought up the marina, just brought up affordable housing.
Right.
In our conversation, we brought up the restaurant,
Right.
you know.
It's,
I mean,
but it's zoned.
Someone asked the question, someone asked the specific question as to whether someone could build a home there. Getting into the exact home that could be built on a piece of property, I don't find relevant to whether we're gonna acquire the property as the borough of Fairhaven right now.
I'm not saying design wise, I'm just saying, how relevant is this need for acquisition? Well, we need to acquire this piece of property. What's the available use of it that we're so afraid of?
It's
I
only.
didn't say it was something we were so afraid of. What I'm saying is,
Well, it
we,
sounds scary when you say affordable housing or something. Sounds like we're the better option. So I'm saying.
I'm not saying we're the better option. I'm saying purchasing this piece of property, if the council decides to do so, they've decided that that's what's in the best interest of the borough of Fairhaven. Having nothing to do with any other plan, that's what's in the best interest of the borough of Fairhaven. That's what, if 4 members of this council vote affirmative on this, that's what they're saying. That's all. It doesn't have anything to do with another house or anything like that.
The only thing that I've heard is that this is a great value. It's been repeated several times that we're acquiring a $1.7 million property for a song, and that this is a no-brainer and everyone supports it. Why?
Because it provides additional waterfront access to our residents.
On the market, and nobody ever had any intent of buying.
Correct.
So don't give me this nonsense, it's some great thought, it's not. These people are stuck with it for years. And they had litigation, I know, with the driving outwork and all that. There's all kinds of legal problems.
Mr. Rice, there's not a person in here.
Number 2, let me ask you something. The surveyors were just there 2 days ago. Who paid for that? Who hired the surveyor?
Well,
You did? Yeah, so you knew you were gonna buy it.
it's part of what we
You
have.
wouldn't have put money into.
No, you have to do the due diligence.
You
before-
weren't sure that you were gonna buy it.
You have to
And
do the,
this whole thing has been railroaded. It's unbelievable.
Mr. Rice, you asked the question, he was answering the question.
Yeah.
part of the due diligence to determine if we can even buy the property.
What's that?
It's the due diligence that we have to do in order to determine if we can even buy the property. We had to get a survey to determine what would we actually consider buying.
Yeah, well, it specifically doesn't the county, the 2 resolutions.
They require.
Decision. to
Yeah,
buy it.
well,
Yeah, all the records. that's correct.
I was triggered by the decision.
Kristen?
Kristen Murphy, 56 Fairhaven Road. I guess, you know, Josh, I know you've said a lot of times, like, we're talking about planning, and obviously we have a lot of concerns that are not really going to address right now, because it's part of the planning based once we acquire the property. And then what I'm hearing is the reason for acquiring the property is solely because you view it as a good deal.
That's a component of purchasing the property. We're getting the property at the right price. That's definitely part of the consideration. 100%. However, to say that that's the only thing we've said is not accurate. It's not accurate. We went through our master plan. We're looking to give additional waterfront access to our residents. And in a piece of land that's adjacent to our municipal dock, we see that as a benefit for our residents. We don't see that as a detriment.
You don't have any idea what you're planning to do with it.
I agree with
What
you.
it's gonna cost or anything. So
I did-
you
well,
can say it's beneficial.
I disagree with that.
If you don't know, hey, we're gonna buy it. So we can see the price.
We were told we didn't have any idea of costs. Our borough administrator gave you some initial thoughts on costs.
Right, about $100,000 in addition to what we've already done.
Correct.
With a very, very rough estimate.
secure the site.
Based on not a lot, and I don't mean that just correctly at all, like I think.
No, you're right.
You can, like without doing any extra work, we're actually hiring people and doing all that, so I don't mean that disrespectfully, I'm just saying. You're giving this a very, very rough, like it's gonna, you know, so I view that as a minimum, it's an extra $100,000. That are not really. You know, accounted for in this whole phase of purchase and. And again, I don't know how you can say it's for the good of the town and it's a benefit to the town. You don't know yet what we're gonna do with it, what it's gonna cost, how you're gonna be doing it, how is that a benefit to the town, if you don't have answers for any of those questions. It's just a blanket, we own this now.
Kristen, I respectfully disagree. I think we have outlined a initial idea of cost. I think we've told you it's gonna be a park. I've agreed that we have not planned or designed it yet, what that park is going to look like. And I agree that every single person in this room should be a big part of that process. 100%. You know, if the community is all together on any component of that, we're gonna roll with that. We're a representative of the community. That's what we are up here. So if you think that, and future governing bodies are the same, you know, that's why people put up here are important. You know, put up people that have like values as you do, and they represent you, and I think they're gonna do a good job of representing you in the future as well. And not pushing things into your community that make you feel uneasy.
I just want to offer that the Green Acres, project agreement, section. Where is it? In disbursements, page 7, section A, or section B, allowable costs for projects as part of this fund may include preliminary planning. And, I'm not sure how you arrived at that 100,000 and what piece of it you might need to add to do that work, because I'm always looking for how we apply to funds. But it's conceivable that we might be able to allocate a portion of those dollars for the kind of planning work that I'm hearing the community ask for, that I believe we want to do. So just to build in one more.
I'm just excited to hear that Aaron's interested in joining our planning committee.
I served this governing body for 9 years. I'm here.
It's done.
Yeah.
Melissa Schwartzman, 25 Road. So if you guys move forward with the purchase and hearing, you guys own 2130.
Well, it's,
And
you own it this way.
I put that out there for my. If that happens, on the planning stage, is there any sort of ordinance, rule, anything that if we all come together as a town and you guys put forward a plan and we gave, what can be done at that point? Can you walk us through, like you guys keep saying, trust us, if you guys come out with numbers, we're gonna do the right side of it. But what happens if we do come out with numbers and do you guys have the ability to move forward without listening to us?
So the way the planning and design process would happen is initially you have a more conceptual level of discussions that would be, we wouldn't just hold meetings, there'd be a community engagement element where you would really and truly get to interface with professionals that would facilitate the discussions around everything from traffic, environmental concerns.
Everybody would appreciate.
Anybody who wants to participate can participate. Usually there's breakout groups and different subjects are dealt with by those folks who care more about traffic and circulation, and some folks who care more about, you know, the way the park is going to be used, or, you know, the point is that there's an outreach piece that it's professionally facilitated. And what comes out of that usually is obstacles and opportunities. And that gives us some data that will inform decision-making before you even get to design. Right, because you guys have already framed a whole bunch of issues that do need to be addressed, not just on your street, if they're really neighborhood issues that probably are gonna trickle a little bit into the business district too. Because we know that people park on your street to shop in the shops. So we've got to be looking, using a broader lens when we consider something at the end of your street. And that's what the planning phase was, that initial piece. After that, you move to design, but you're entering the design phase with a lot of data. There's a technical component that you need some engineers and planners and designers to help inform us. And then there's the community input piece. Nobody knows your neighborhood better than you. Personally, I'm gonna be asking. I think that's the information that needs to inform the design, along with folks, as other council people pointed out, that live in the other parts of Fairhaven. We're gonna say, that's no problem, I can ride my bike there. Or they're gonna say, absolutely not, I have 4 kids and I need to be able to drive. We need to explore those things. Where are the tension points and what's right for people who live half a mile away and for people who live on the block. So there's a conceptual outreach phase that will flush out all the opportunities and obstacles, and then we move to design.
Can I add some? Community center design changed 3 times based on public feedback. DPW changed 5 times based directly on public feedback in this room.
I also want to throw out, was it Cambridge Avenue?
Cambridge Ave.
Where we were having issues with traffic, and we set up a task force, was it a task force? It was a group of committed people to just look at that issue, and
Started with a 90-minute open house with every Cambridge resident.
we're in a better place. So that's where maybe the confidence comes from, that we're gonna move this thing around to get it to where it needs to be. Balance.
Hi, Heather Newman, 57-120. My question is there a deadline that you guys have that we're rushing to meet? I know you don't feel we're rushing because you've been talking about it for years, supposedly. But as the community, we're just hearing. So is there a deadline that they're saying we have to tell them that we're purchasing this?
Funding's tied to a deadline.
What's
It's
the
20,
deadline?
it was 2021 funds. Green Acres actually gave us to October 15th to approve the agreement we approved at the last meeting.
Okay, so October 15th goes for
That's how Green Acres does their funding cycles, and this is in 21. These funds are from were approved in 2021.
So you could lose the funding if you don't.
Well, we'd have to reintroduce it, that's all.
And then to apply.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the 335.
No.
Okay.
Okay, for me to move along, I just wanna, we're good? All right, thank you. Approval of minutes, October 3rd, 2023, executive session. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, please have a roll call.
Councilmember Cole.
Yes.
Tully.
Yes.
Hodge.
Yes.
Barbera.
Yes.
October 10th, 2023, executive session. Do I have a motion?
Motion, second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
First Cole.
Yes.
Tully. Barbera.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Thank you. Old business hearing and adoption of ordinance number 2023-17. Bond ordinance for capital improvements, facilities and road improvements. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion to open. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone have anything on this up here?
If there are any questions, just let me know.
Is there anyone in the public that has any comments on this ordinance, 2023-17?
So just for background, right, this is for the DPW and Police Department Community Center, since folks are here. Close to 3.5 million is contingencies. God forbid something goes wrong. We're hoping that our diligence in the design process does not. And that's what this comes back to, just so everybody's on the same page.
And the possibility of the appropriation?
Oh, yeah, and there's also the appropriation, we're waiting on the Fed, obviously, I don't know if anyone's tracking what's going on in the House. But we're waiting on final approval for $1 million grant from the Fed. If that comes in, that'll be a further offset, which is, we're waiting on, so just for background.
It's also funding Fairhaven Road Phase 2, which is completely grant funded.
Yes, And just so we're all tracking on that, so we got close to $1 million in grant money for redoing Fairhaven Road from Lubo to Ridge. And so when you, even though you have a grant, you still need to bond for that money. So we bond for it, we create an account, and then the money gets dropped in there, and that's what you can draw down.
Quick question, Brian Olson, next to you further on. It says here it's negotiable bonds. Did we look at competitive by chance? The technical question, and if we didn't, do we pick it back?
No, the funding, as far as the bond sales will take place when and if they need to issue bonds. Sometimes they'll issue notes in the short run, and the borough's finance committee and our financial advisors will assist us on when time to sell bonds based on the market and funds as they need.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Allison, is there anyone else in the public? Allison, is there anyone online?
I'll have voting committee.
Hi, Claudia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I just want to make one comment on the Fairhaven Road. If you drive, and I would hope this could be done, I don't know, but I think it wouldn't be expensive. If you drive.
Claudia, we're in the middle of bond ordinance hearing, but
Yeah.
just keep your hand up. I'll come back to you for good of the borough. All right.
Well, it had to do with the bond ordinance.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry then. Continue.
I'd like to see the dollars. I'd like to see some dollars in that bond ordinance. If you drive in front of Riverview Hospital, there are some stripes on the road that I'm gonna call rumble paint. Your cars feels like it's going over a bumpy surface that makes you very aware of what you're going over. I think we could use that down like near Buttonwood, go into the natural area, maybe on both sides. Because the traffic on this road is incredibly fast. If you want to make money, just put a cop out there. But that would, if we had that built into this plan, and I understand there is really no plan, even though once again, we're doing the bond, I understand the whole process now. I'm gonna call it rumble paint, right in front of Riverview Hospital. There are 2 or 3 sections, stripes on the road, right on the highway, of paint that make your car feel like it's rumbling. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else, Allison?
No.
Do I have a motion to close?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Cole,
Yes.
Chloe,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Robert Bell,
Yeah.
Matt,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. New business, council committee reports, starting with finance, police, fire, OEM, Councilman Rodriguez.
I'll keep it short. We will have a finance committee early in November. We haven't selected the date yet. For police, fire, and OEM, just wanted to echo the sentiment in the room for all the promotions that just happened. Many of you were here. I know a lot of folks were listening in on online. You know, it's a great day for our new captain, Sherry Lambert, our new lieutenant, Stephen Schneider, and our new sergeant, William Lagateria. Just want to commend them for their hard work and their promotions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Moving along, personnel, parks and recreation, Councilman Hope.
Sure. For personnel on that, on that note, Councilman Rodriguez, I would agree that everyone's, tremendously excited about the 3 police appointments and promotions that we witnessed tonight. I would also comment on the fact that everybody that went through the process did an exceptional job, and we had, one-on-one or group interviews with everybody that was up, and I thought the entire squad. So I think we can all rest assured that we have a fantastic police force working for us in town. Also wanted to mention that we are entering an interlocal, and we've brought this up at a couple of meetings, interlocal agreement with the Little Silver Library. So starting November 1st, we'll have the library director from Little Silver coming in to advise us accordingly. And she's already off to a great start in terms of giving us ideas and ways to capitalize on things that Monmouth County provides that we hadn't thought of before. So that'll be starting November 1st. And then lastly, wanted to just highlight one critical open role that we have right now on our DPW team. The job has been posted on our website, it's been posted on Facebook, several job boards. It's an exciting opportunity to join the team, especially with everything that we have going on. So keep an eye out for that as well. Parks and Rec. Should we move right on? Parks and Rec, we have, unfortunately, the camp out was canceled this weekend, as everybody probably saw. Will be rescheduled for a new date, but we did have a successful Halloween parade yesterday that was attended by several residents and children. We have a couple of initiatives that I just wanted to highlight that are coming up that we're excited about. One is a bike safety program that we'll be kicking off most likely towards the end of fall, beginning spring. And this will be both educational for parents as well as for children. And so more to come. We're still working on the details, but really excited about that. We also are starting conversations about a potential farmers market. And so we'll have, you know, sort of introductory, exploratory conversations this week. More to come on that as well.
Where?
Planning board, Councilman Cox.
Never mind. Strike that.
Our last planning board meeting was.
It's on the dot, yeah. Council President, I apologize.
No problem. Our last planning board meeting, scheduled for October was canceled due to a lack of agenda. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 21st. And we have a new planning and zoning board secretary, Sheila Olson. I'd like to recognize and welcome her to Borough Hall. One other topic that's very near to my heart is that during our workshop session today, we approved the distribution and display for signs for our veterans. Honk of a veteran lives here. So I would just like to say, if there are any residents who have not received a sign in the past, but would like a sign that they are a veteran, or if you are new to town and you're a veteran, you can contact Carissa Gabbro at Fairhaven Veteran Appreciation @gmail.com. You can contact me, or you can contact Betty Ann at Borough Hall. The signs will be distributed the weekend of November 4th. And if anyone would like to help volunteer to distribute the signs, you're always welcome. You can contact us. And all of this information will be posted on our various social platforms. So you'll have the contact information if you'd like to reach out to us. Thank you.
Correction, planning board's meeting November 15th. That's small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Borough, Engineering, DPW, Borough Facilities, Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Thanks, Mayor. Gonna start with facilities, on the police department community center. Hashtag Getting It Together FH. There's been a ton of progress, fences up. Asphalt, parking lot gone, concrete. They're really preparing it. Just a quick reminder that there are temporary bathrooms up by 3rd Street. We had a phenomenal ceremony, I would call it, at Fish Chapel on the 15th of October to commemorate the long-term agreement and relationship and partnership. I noticed an update on that went out this week, Mr. Mayor. But it really signified kind of the bond and the strength that we have, and we're looking to continue to grow and foster. So really excited about that. On DPW, we issued addendum 19 October. We are on track to do bid opening on 01 November. And hopefully bring it to award on 13 November. We're gonna be targeting the second auction as we continue with our purge and storage efforts. If you recall, we netted 41 grand on the first auction. Great. So we'll do another auction. And on the agenda tonight, if you recall a couple meetings back, we talked about purchasing trailers to make the DPW mobile. That was brought tonight. Other zoning board, Next meeting's 02 November. If you recall, the last time we spoke, we talked about the riparian zone versus buffer and updating to the state standards. That's been reviewed with Nick Perchinsky, and that's on the agenda after this, I believe, if I'm correct. And then the other ordinance on drainage, looking to have a workshop with the zoning board, and then confer with legal before bringing it here for workshop, just to do some more due diligence on updating our drainage ordinance.
Stormwater management? Is that what you mean?
No, so that's coming in June, I believe it is. This is specific to if a house is renovated, and we have to figure out what that means. There's a lot there. But putting dry wells and other green infrastructure.
stormwater
Oh,
management. Okay,
yes,
cool.
sorry, yes,
Great.
yes. I know there's a larger stormwater,
Yeah, but I know what you're saying on an individual lot.
Correct.
Right,
yeah.
great.
Brush and leaf, following a similar process. Hopefully we'll come to the next governing body meeting with that updated ordinance based on the brush and leaf plan. And then engineering DPW, I'm just gonna hit a couple, just given that it's late. Fairhaven Street lighting, the state contract came in high, too high. So we're gonna be putting that out to bid. As far as how much we would avoid and all of that, more to come, but it's gonna be done in-house.
The bid specs are gonna be done in-house?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Stormwater management, continue to follow the county. We met, on Colonial Port on 19 October. There are clear plans for paving, finishing the house, doing sidewalks. Had a meeting today, to talk about stormwater management, what that looks like. And we're all heading in the right direction. Hit various projects, micro projects we hit. McCarter Pond, we're having an executive session on that. Hopefully we'll have some next steps outlined for the public at the next meeting. That's it for me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Borough Communications, Community Outreach, Councilman Cole.
Thank you, Mayor. Outreach and communications, we may be meeting later this week. As always, want to encourage folks to sign up for the buzz. You can call Betty Ann or scan the QR code wherever you see the B, also known as the buzz. The Environmental Commission meets the first Wednesday of each month. They're taking up the business of their annual report in preparation for submission to the council. Their focus is now moving to 2024, and I just want to mention to the governing body, if there's something specific we'd like to see the Environmental Commission attend to, focus on or deliberate on, it would be good for us to give that direction about now, so we incorporate it into their plans for 2024. The green team is organizing a sports swap, which is a trade of sports equipment for kids. Your kids grow out of it just in time for a lot of use for the next kid who's growing into it. So look for details on social media. We're aiming for the weekend of November 17th with probably a 3-day lead up to the 17th for where to drop off your gear, and then green team intends to sort of capture it, organize it, and then make it available for the swap. Shade Tree Commission, I know, well, good news, the Shade Tree Commission was awarded a grant for the tree inventory. I know we have to perfect our understanding about the piece of it. It is in kind, I gather, based on some of the emails I saw, but it's a $15,000 grant for a tree inventory, which is yet another tool in the Shade Tree Commission's toolkit for managing the canopy for all of us in New Haven. The grants committee has one thing, and I'll circulate this. Actually, this came to FEMA grant that came to the grants committee and also from Councilman Barbera. And I'll share this with you. The grants committee prepared a template having to do with, to give you a summary for the FEMA grant. And I'll just say, this is a draft, and it's big, bold up top draft, because it's the recommendation of the grants committee that we do explore this. They would able, put some of the details in here, but this is a very technical grant. And so what we're recommending, you guys, you should all look at this and understand it, but that it should go to our engineer and go to the engineering and DPW committee, and then to the engineers. Because of the technical parts of this, it would have to be explored or even finalized and submitted by our staff, not a group of volunteers at all.
Is
But
is it a first come, first serve?
no, it's, well, I guess like with every grant, you want to get your application in.
okay.
It's up to $900,000. The part that pertains directly to Fairhaven is in the localized flood risk reduction project, which is localized flood risk for the purposes of reducing national flood insurance. So we are participants in the national flood insurance program, which is one of the pre-qualifications. But the projects have to be local level drainage flood control projects to improve drainage and reduce flood risk for communities, and can include numerous activities such as drainage pipes, pump stations, topographical grading, seawalls, marsh restoration, and other nature-based solutions. Several things come to mind, and there's a short list that's on the summary for
Borough
you.
does not participate in the National Flood Insurance Program.
Well, that might be then disqualified. So again, there's some technical pieces of this. This is really where it's a draft, so it's gonna have to go for technical review, and I would suggest it goes to engineering and DPW. The grants committee did their best to summarize it based on our understanding. There's a sample of an application. Oh, it might have got accidentally circled. There it is. Here's a description of a short project that seemed to align with something like Fairhaven, which we might want to consider. Phase 2 of Winchester Avenue Resiliency Project by replacing and installing storm sewer infrastructure to benefit 365 structures in this town, but whatever, in our town, maybe more or less, but including 19 repetitive and severe repetitive loss homes that are insured. So if that's, we have to determine that we participate. We did do that research and thought that we did. Okay, so we have to examine that, but this project goes on to describe expanding the stormwater pipes, new inlets, and increasing capacity for drainage. So again, grants committee took a look at it, they did their best with it, but it really does have to go for a technical review by our staff. Business just hosting their Shop Small Saturday on November 25th and their holiday stroll in the park with Santa on December 12th. And more updates on this, but the local historical association is applying to the County Historical Society for a small matching grant. The idea is that this grant fund would be used to digitize the archive. More on that. The deadline is approaching, but I think they'll get it in, and then I'll keep you up to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Moving along, introduction of ordinances 2023-18. Authorize the acquisition of real property for public purposes, 21 Fairhaven Road. Hearing and adoption would be held on November 13th, 2023. I know we've given the public the opportunity to speak. Is there anyone on the dais that would like to speak before a motion was made?
Just the one thing I'll say, Mayor, I'm 100% for planning, point person, community engagement, mitigating concerns, and building trust.
And you're no on the spray part.
100% no on this matter.
I'll say less, it's more, it's a great location, I don't know that it needs to have much there, and I think I've said many times, I'll be happy to, there was a bench there to sit, I think the parking is an issue. We should definitely do a circulation study and figure out the parking. I'm completely okay with taking some drastic actions to reduce people driving along that road and encourage walking and biking. And making that, a significant way to get, down to the dock and to that property. So I really think that a lot of thought should be put into the parking issue.
Well,
I also think, that ordinance that we want to pass on the crab and fishing. I think I might have been one of the first ones to mention that problem to council a couple of years ago. I think we should try to be as restrictive as possible, and I think the suggestion to have dusk as the time to not to have the fishing and crabbing stop is probably best, so we don't have people 9 o'clock at night in the dark there in the winter. So I would say maybe go more restrictive. We could always change it in the future. And, I think that would help reduce the number of people out of town who are coming.
and I hate to steal this. Are people crabbing in the winter?
No.
I don't
Does that
know,
happen?
but
It's a season, so they're not even there, from what I understand.
Spring, summer, fall.
But whether we need to say no mattresses allowed or whatever.
Put it in there.
Put in
I
the
put it in.
ordinance, I put in there, I would not wanna see anybody with a mattress there.
Sleeping
And I think there's no harm in putting it in there, so I would say more restrictive is better, we can always modify it.
Andrew, don't make me remind you about the mattresses.
And sleeping bags.
Where are you on the Terry Park?
That's what's crazy, you know.
Out, right? Two on the record against the spread.
You left out coolers, we talked about coolers.
Absolutely,
That's
cool,
true.
put everything in.
The only other coolers is, I do think with coolers, if it's a small cooler, don't they use that sometimes for bathing stuff?
Yeah.
That's, maybe it's the size of the cooler, something like that, but we gotta discuss that.
I also, and I'm sorry, I also think we should restrict the number of fishing poles per person, because somebody was here in the last meeting and said somebody had 10 fishing poles out there, and I don't know how we can do it, but.
Right. I'm
That's
willing to
not
take
outrageous.
that risk.
And we should do that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's worth it.
Because it's pretty outrageous.
We also, but listen, we also wanna make sure that our own residents, when they go there to fish or prey, can have an enjoyable experience.
Well, I don't think I'm agreeing with the fishing poles.
All right, are we talking about,
Yeah.
21 Fairhaven Road still?
We are.
This is a hearing,
Oh,
Right.
not a hearing,
Well, they're
there's
benching.
introduction to the ordinance,
Thank you.
not a hearing.
Wait, are we voting or are we just commenting?
Well, it's a comment before the vote. I asked you all if you wanted to comment.
Okay, what if we don't? What if we just?
You don't have to comment.
I would just like to reiterate my opposition to the purchase of the property on 21 Fairhaven Road. I don't think I need to go over all of my reasons again. But after listening to the comments and to the true concerns of our residents that live in that neighborhood, there are a lot of factors to consider, and I would hate to see the quality of life for our neighbors on Fairhaven Road to be diminished by this project.
Understood. If we do acquire it, you're a no on the sprinkler, correct?
I don't know, my initial.
I'm getting on the record.
Parks are fun, so. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone for their feedback. I think that the comments, the questions, and also the passion to come out, because it's hard to come out on a Monday night and sit here for 3 or 4 hours. I know that, I've been doing it for a little while now, but I just want to say thanks for coming out, because feedback helps guide us. I know we have a document from 2016, but this is also real live feedback. So to the extent that we'll take it into account as we move forward or not with this project, you know, it's helpful and it's appreciated. Also appreciate what the mayor's done and also what Councilman Barbera has done with the county and various agencies to try to secure well over $1 million to bring our tax money back into town. I mean, that can't be understated. It's been a lot of hard work. It started with former council president John Peters many years ago. I know people find that hard to believe. But you know, he brought that forward. It had to be 2018. And it's finally now coming into light for us. We work hard to get our tax dollars back, and roads, parks, and recreation are the ways that we usually get our money back. It's not through major facilities, though we do have an example where our recreation center might get funded by our federal government, which would be fantastic. But generally, those are the ways we get it back in. So this is a great opportunity to take advantage of that. So I find it to be financially responsible in many ways. We're envisioning a partnership with the community, but not just the immediate community, the entire community. And I trust that the folks that'll be up here next year and the year after that will make sound decisions based on the feedback that we get from our Fairhaven residents and specifically the people around the piece of property. So for all these reasons, I do support this. Personally, I'm partial to a passive use of that park. I know that there's others that want to leave it a bit more open-ended. I need to hear why that's the case, but I'm also open to that. But I do think regardless of all of that, I do think we're going to find the right path forward. We generally do. We come together as a community really well. We've got a lot of experts in a lot of different areas up here. And, you know, in 2024, when we have 2 new council people up here, I'm sure they're going to pull their weight and bring something to the table as well. So, for those reasons, I do support this.
Nicole?
I have so many thoughts. I'll try to keep it short. You know, if all of us closed our eyes right now and pictured a park, we could all picture something entirely different. And therein lies some of the problems, the opportunities and obstacles, but it's been my practice, or at least one of the things I think is ideally prior to acquiring, what you want to do is gather data and stress test the idea prior to acquisition. Because if in the stress test, we identify too many obstacles versus opportunities, then we have to look at it clinically as to whether or not it is actually a viable idea. And there are millions of ideas out there. At some point, though, when you get ready to act, you have to detach from how much you love an idea and really do the hard gravity check to test it for whether or not it's gonna impact or cost too much, or the analysis should inform the decision. So this has been hard for me to go through this without that. And I know that I'm not the only person up here that's struggling along those same lines. So, we have a small town of about 1,022 acres. And roughly 2/3 of that acreage is rateable, it's producing revenue. The other third costs us money, houses of worships, streets, wooded lands, wetlands, ponds, creeks, open space. We're continuing to, they all need attention, resources, dollars, human infrastructure around it, maintenance, management plan of thoughts, and we continue to acquire more open space. And I understand how captivating this idea is. But I think we have to take care of what we have and really demonstrate that we're capable and that we can do that. I think that this governing body wants to do that and is taking those steps. But given the cost, because we could say we're acquiring it for $335,000, instead of $100,000 for soft costs, and we haven't even talked about the hard costs, and we don't really know. But the planning and design to really thread this needle has to be done really well, and it's going to cost money. You can't just grade it and leave it and let the public use it. It should be designed very nicely, very thoughtfully, and very carefully, and it's going to cost money. More than I think we understand. I have several reasons, but I can't support it at this time.
Councilwoman Gold? Okay, the only thing I'll say, I thought everything you said was well said, is I just want everyone to remember that these types of properties is also what enhances our way of living in Fairhaven. And it's a reason why when you buy your house at a certain price point, and then you sell out of your house 20, 30 years later, it appreciates so much in value. So while you might be putting out a little bit more money up front, the saying goes, if we do it the right way, that you're gonna get that back and then some on the way out. So I just wanted to point that out. With that being said, does anyone have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilwoman Cole,
No.
Tony,
Yes.
Hutch,
No.
Barbera,
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Consent agenda resolutions 2023-269 through 2023-273. Before I ask for a motion, does anyone want to separate anything on there?
We're calling 270.
We're pulling 2023-270, that's approved chapter 159, New Jersey Forest Service, UCF Stewardship Grant.
Just to call out one item on 272 payment of vouchers, where the payment to the church is in there, the $20,000 that we agreed is in there. So I just don't want to make sure like that's there.
Anyone have any questions on this?
No.
Anyone have a motion to approve?
Motion two
Second.
sixty-nine to 273, not including 270.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Neff,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Department reports, September 2023, municipal court, police department, budget status. Motion to accept the reports as submitted. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept with the thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Go to the borough, please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes.
I'm Michael Dumaselli, 522 River Road. Quickly, I support any money that's going towards stormwater maintenance, so thank you. Second, with the green team, we're doing the sports swap. We are looking for a place to house what we collect. So if not to decide tonight, but that is something that we were gonna approach you about, finding if there's anywhere in rural property that we could collect, maybe in front of the community center. Or in front of us, obviously not the community center, I think that. But maybe in front of town hall or Centennial Hall, if there's somewhere that we could work.
You're looking for weatherproof storage?
Web storage, which is like a Dropbox essentially.
Like the scouts do.
Would like the
In the
scouts
lobby,
do.
maybe.
So is there something in the lobby that we would do during the day?
Sporting equipment can be big though.
Yeah.
That's the
I don't know
problem.
how much storage.
I know that.
Drops off a
we-
pair of
we have this,
skis.
We could pick it up every so often, because we're only thinking about a 3-day window. So it would be a 3-day window where we drop stuff off, but I do see that it.
If you,
if
What about in the concessions? Or they're not open during the winter?
someone
but the
actually brought that
actual-
up, but
I'll personally offer.
No, I think that's there.
If
Yeah, what do you think?
There's a garage. It's
there's a
pretty
golf
empty.
cart in there.
Yeah, but it doesn't take up the whole space,
Another, fine, yeah, 100%, I could.
and it doesn't work anyway.
Yeah,
no one.
Would that work?
So this is, you're saying a concession stand is.
Well,
crazy
let's,
deal?
we gotta run it by Teresa. I guess Rich should tell us what.
That's really DJ.
Okay, maybe you just can let them know.
So
Michael,
we'll
if you
try to
need-
figure out the details.
yeah, and if you need a place, my garage, because I'm right by Bicentennial.
Because we do have something we can probably put it in, but just as a drop off location.
Yeah, I think the
What about the firehouse?
Knights of, Firehouse, Knights of Columbus and Nativity Church would probably love to help support that as
Okay.
well. So
And that was one of our next steps,
Yeah.
to kind of reach out to. some
if the town is constrained.
Okay. Well, all right, so it's a lot. Thank you.
I think it's gonna be a big deal.
Is there anyone else in the public?
Save your stuff.
Go to the borough, in public. Allison, is there anyone online?
Yes, sir.
All right, with that being said, we're gonna move towards executive session. No formal action will be taken. Time is 10:24 PM.
Weatherford?
Got a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 10:45 PM. Good night, Fairhaven. Be safe.
Wow.
I gotta be on the ferry,